Okay, thank you. We're ready to start. Right then, item 1 on the agenda. I have a couple of announcements. There is a concert at Batley Town Hall on Friday the 13th of February for the Mayor's charity. Booking is through the Town Hall bookings, if anybody'd like to book. Thank you. Everybody will know it'd be a good programme because Councillor Hall's doing the programme. Okay. Another really nice announcement actually. Councillor Ashley Robinson, we send our congratulations to her and Ian on the birth of their baby Theo. So I think the council will send congratulations. And then, if the council, I think the council would like to send condolences to Councillor Bolt on his recent bereavement. I think we join together to send our condolences to him. Thank you. Announcements to the Chief Executive? No? Okay. Right then, item 2, apologies for absence. Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apology from Councillor Darren O'Donovan, Councillor Gwen Law, Councillor Well Simpson. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Smith.
Thank you. We have apologies from Councillor Martin Bolt and Damien Brooke. Thank you.
Councillor Munro.
Apologies. I'd like to give apologies from Councillor Ashley Robinson and Councillor Paula Davies. Thank you.
Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Madam. Apologies from Councillor Bromner.
Councillor Ahmed.
Councillor Adam Zaman and Councillor Aziz Darji.
Apologies from Councillor Cahoot and Councillor Moore.
Thank you.
Councillor Lawson. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other apologies? Councillor Allen. And have we heard from Councillor Graves? No? Okay. Right. Thank you. Right. Item 3, minutes of previous meeting then. I move that the minutes of the meeting of Council held on 10th of December 2025 and the minutes of the meeting of Extraordinary Council held on 17th of December 2025. I had to check then I got the right year. You noticed that. Be approved as a correct record. Is that seconded?
I second that. Yeah.
Thank you. Can we vote by a show of hands to approve the minutes? Thank you very much. Thank you. Those are carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Members who have any disclosable pecuniary interests and any other interests which may prevent them from discussing or voting on any item should disclose their interests. Councillor Armour.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm the proud possessor of an over 60s or whatever it is bus pass, so it's item 12.
Thank you, Councillor Armour. Are there any other declarations of interest? Then, so I think, are you all the same? Is it all the same? Okay. So Councillor Patterson, Councillor Kendrick, Councillor Turner, Councillor Firth. Can we have a bit of quiet, please? Can we just have a little bit of quiet, please, while we do this? Thank you. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Kendrick, Councillor Turner, Councillor Sokol, Councillor Firth. Councillor Sewell. Thank you. Senior moment. Thank you. Councillor Longstaff. Councillor Andrew Pinnock. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. All right, okay. And do I need to declare that I've got a rail one as well? Okay. All right. Can I remind all members that any interest needs to be verbally declared in the meeting, and any members who make a declaration will then be provided with a form to complete. Thank you. Right then, let's move to item 5. Petitions from members of the council. Are there any petitions? Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're handing in a petition signed by 270 people calling for the replacement of the footbridge over the River Colne in Slowett, which was destroyed by a storm on New Year's Day 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. In accordance with Council Procedure Rule 9(3), I direct that the subject matter of the petition be referred to the appropriate Executive Director for investigation. Thank you. Are there any other petitions from councillors? No? Okay. Item 6 then, deputations and petitions from members of the public. There are 4 deputations this evening. So the first deputation is not available yet. Okay. So we'll move to the second deputation. Can I please invite Tia Hamilton-Pinnock to present her deputation, please? Hello. Come on in. You've got 5 minutes for your presentation. If you can say who you are and who you're representing. Thank you. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Michelle Welch, and this is my colleague, Tia Pinnock Hamilton. And we're speaking tonight on behalf of Huddersfield African Caribbean Cultural Trust, also known as HACT, which is the charity that delivers Huddersfield Carnival. We are a community-led organisation operating in Kirklees, and we are here today to highlight the contribution of Huddersfield Carnival that it makes to Kirklees and to ask how the council might work with us to support its future and its sustainability. Huddersfield Carnival has taken place for over 40 years and is a clear evidence of a successful partnership between Kirklees Council and a cultural and a community-led organisation. The Carnival is well established and a well-loved event within the Kirklees cultural calendar, and it takes place within the town centre and ends in Greenhead Park on the second Saturday of July. Huddersfield Carnival is one of the largest free community events in the town centre, attracting up to 40,000 people each year. It is open, it's accessible, and it's family friendly, welcoming residents and visitors from across Kirklees and beyond. The Carnival creates shared public space that brings people together across different backgrounds, different ages and communities. The event is a Black-led and community-run organisation, and it plays a unique role in promoting equality, representation and inclusion. At present, there are no other town centre events of comparable scale that is led by the Black community and offers the same level of access and visibility. In this sense, Huddersfield Carnival supports the Council's wider ambitions around strong, cohesive communities, ensuring that all communities feel seen and valued and able to participate in civic life. The last Carnival was held in 2023, and this hugely successful event was held in full partnership with Kirklees. There were in excess of 20,000 attendees who were able to participate in the street procession and also join the celebrations in Greenhead Park. We were unable to hold a carnival in 2024 and 2025, and excluding COVID years, this is the longest time that Huddersfield has not had a carnival since its inception in 1984. We are regularly contacted by the community to question when will Carnival return to Huddersfield, and expressing clear upset and disappointment at the prospect of potentially losing a significant cultural event permanently. We want to be clear that HACT understands the financial pressures facing local authorities, and we recognise the council funding is very limited and must be carefully prioritised. We also want to emphasise that we are doing everything that we can ourselves to raise funds independently, including applying for grants, seeking sponsorship, working with partners, and we rely very, very heavily on volunteers. Our organisation is proactive and we are committed, but also realistic about the current funding landscape. Like many community-led events, the Carnival faces increasing costs associated with safety, accessibility, infrastructure and compliance. And these pressures make it increasingly challenging to deliver a large, free, public event without some form of consistent support. Our purpose today is therefore not to look backwards, but to look forwards to a time when Huddersfield Carnival is back on the annual Kirklees cultural calendar with a clear, sustainable strategy for the future.
We're not here simply to ask for funding. Instead, we're here to ask what support Kirklees Council may be able to offer us going forward to revive and sustain Huddersfield Carnival, whether that is financial support or support in kind. Support in kind could be officer assistance with logistics, planning, access to council resources or spaces, or coordination with council services. In addition, we strongly believe that Huddersfield Carnival aligns with and adds strength and value to a number of Kirklees strategies and frameworks. Firstly, we're aware of the Council's tourism strategy and feel that Huddersfield Carnival strongly aligns with this. Carnival's a national event and there are carnivals held in major cities and towns across the country. Carnival attendees are known to participate in the full Carnival circuit, travelling to all regional events, including Huddersfield. The sheer volume of potential visitors to Kirklees due to Carnival will have a positive and sustainable impact on local tourism, helping to put Kirklees on the map. Visitors will attend Carnival annually, see firsthand what Huddersfield and Kirklees has to offer as a tourism destination. We also feel that Council aligns very well with the 2028 UK Town of Culture competition. Carnival could play an integral role here in showcasing the cultural diversity that Kirklees has to offer. Secondly, we feel that Huddersfield Carnival supports the Kirklees Inclusive Economy strategy. The event contributes to inclusive growth and town centre vitality, generating significant footfall, supporting local trades and food vendors, and bringing positive activity into the town centre. For many businesses, the Carnival weekend is a welcome boost. The Carnival participants are traditionally led by groups of young people and supported by HACT. This platform gives participants an opportunity to develop their leadership skills, team working, organisational and budget management capabilities, all skills needed to access work and employment opportunities in the future. Finally, Huddersfield Carnival supports the Inclusive Communities framework through building trust and promoting belonging in local places. Kirklees residents from all backgrounds, ethnicities and sections of the community have enjoyed and celebrated Carnival over the past 42 years. This is supportive of the 5 inclusive approaches of the framework through creating connections across diverse communities, increasing communication and opportunities to promote joint working, which by design will build trust and allow communities to continue to celebrate together. Yeah, yes we can. So in summary, Huddersfield Carnival aligns with and supports Kirklees tourism strategy, inclusive communities framework and economy, supports inclusive growth, strengthens community cohesion and provides a sense of pride and inclusion of the black community. We thank you for your time today and for considering how we can continue working together for the benefit for all of the Kirklees communities.
Councillor Pattison to respond.
Thank you, Michelle and Tia, for your presentation. And I would like to acknowledge the work that the African Caribbean Cultural Trust has done over the years and express our appreciation for the cultural and community contribution the Huddersfield Carnival has made over the past 40 years. And I have to say, at the risk of embarrassing Tia, I think I first met you there as a baby and have been there every year since. So Huddersfield, the Carnival has brought people together, celebrated Caribbean heritage and has delivered vibrant events. I mean, yes, they are wonderful events. Nobody can deny that. We also recognise the disappointment as well felt across the whole community following the recent pause in Carnival delivery. It was stated in the press the event made its return after a 5-year absence at the time of the revival in 2023, when it formed part of the year of music, And that was a unique opportunity made possible with external funding partners, which also enabled our events team here in the council to increase its capacity and be able to provide more support for the Huddersfield Carnival Committee that year than it has been able to do for several years and is in a position to do this year. Through this period and the following years, council officers have facilitated independent development work with the Trust to identify organisational development areas key to the future delivery of the Carnival. This work has examined everything from strengthening governance to capacity and skills and identifying the financial needs for the event. In addition to supporting the foundations of the Trust through a development programme, the Council has continued to support applications for the Trust to hold its events. In 2025, an application was made to hold an event in Huddersfield Town Centre. This received support from various departments across the Council, including advice and guidance around planning and logistics and safety, all of the things I know you mentioned in your speech that have proved difficult and more difficult over the years. Our intention is to work constructively with you to continue the development process because, again, as you say, really recognise how it does contribute to our strategies, the tourism strategy, the inclusive community framework, the economic development, all of that, as you say, is totally recognised. But we need to make sure that everyone is informed about decisions about next steps. We will continue to support your event applications and provide advice, and will continue a conversation that I know has been ongoing around mutually beneficial opportunities such as space provision, because that's at a bit of a difficult situation at the moment with all the other work that's going on in Huddersfield. But in essence, the Council does support the exploration of a sustainable future for Carnival and applauds the Trust's and your work's ambition to bring about the return of the event. We welcome continued dialogue as the development work progresses. Thank you.
Can we invite Helen Wilson to present the next deputation, please? Helen, you've got 5 minutes if you can say who you are and if you're representing anybody. Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Helen Wilson. Chair, thank you for allowing me to speak. I am here today because Dewsbury Cemetery is reported to have only one Muslim burial plot remaining. This is not a sudden issue. It is the result of long-term failure to plan for burial provision in an area with well-established and growing need. Burial is not an optional service for families of various faiths. It is time-critical, deeply sensitive and central to dignity, faith and equality. When burial space runs out, families are left distressed and without real choice. I am deeply concerned by reports that the leader of the council, Carol Pattison, has been holding discussions with trustees of a private faith-specific cemetery as a potential way forward. I want to be clear. Private burial land may have a role, but it cannot be a substitute for publicly planned, publicly accessible burial provision that is democratically accountable and subject to scrutiny. Relying on private arrangements raises serious concerns about equality of access and affordability, about transparency and decision-making, and about whether a public responsibility is being informally outsourced without proper approval or community consent. Families in Dewsbury should not be left dependent on private goodwill because the council failed to act in time. As a representative of a multi-faith committee of concerned Kirklees residents, my question to the leader of the council is this: why is the council engaging in private discussions with trustees of a faith-specific burial site instead of urgently identifying and bringing forward publicly controlled burial land? and what steps are being taken to ensure this issue is addressed transparently, ethically and on a long-term basis for all residents. I ask the Council to treat this as the emergency it clearly is, and to commit to a public, accountable solution that restores faith, confidence and dignity for affected families. Thank you.
Councillor Pattison.
Thank you both for your deputation. Thank you for your question regarding burial provision in Dewsbury and the wider North Kirklees area. I do appreciate the sensitivity and urgency that surrounds burial arrangements for families of all faiths, and I want to address your points quite clearly. Over several years, the Council has been actively seeking to identify and secure suitable land for new burial provision in the Dewsbury area. As part of this work, we have undertaken a review of council-owned lands as well as site surveys on 2 specific locations. Unfortunately, those sites were assessed as not suitable for the provision of burials. The search for appropriate land is continuing and will continue, and we remain committed to this search. And I'm also happy, again, to confirm the capital monies secured, the 500,000, remain available for burial provision in the Dewsbury area. I would also like to reassure you and residents of Dewsbury and North Kirklees that there are no capacity issues for burials across all faiths within our other North Kirklees cemeteries. We recognise, yes, that Dewsbury Cemetery itself has the 1 plot left, but there are over 2,000 spaces left in the rest of North Kirklees. Families can continue to expect timely and respectful arrangements while we work to bring forward additional provision closer than the provision that we've got at the moment in Dewsbury, in North Kirklees, to Dewsbury. You also referenced discussions involving the Muslim Burial Council of North Kirklees. To be clear, engaging with community and faith stakeholders forms a normal part of our responsibilities, and we have always been in discussion with them via the Bereavement Forum, where many other stakeholders are also represented. However, such discussions do not alter the Council's ongoing search for suitable, publicly accessible burial provision for all residents of all faiths or none in North Kirklees. Our focus remains on ensuring equitable, transparent and sustainable arrangements that meet present and future needs. We will continue to keep all interested parties, updated as the work progresses through the Bereavement Forum. Additionally, the service is looking at how we can communicate more effectively with members of the public. Officers have told me that they are willing to come and talk to your group and explain everything which has been happening. And I have just this week updated local ward councillors and the local MP, and we have published all this information in detail on our website. So thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Dilys Beaumont to present her deputation, please? Hello, you've 5 minutes for your deputation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dilys Beaumont. I'm a member of the Better Buses campaign. As bus passengers in Kirklees, we support the decision in March 2024 to take our buses back into public control. This will end the power of the bus companies to make decisions based only on the need to increase profits rather than on the needs of the communities we live in. However, we want to see meaningful public consultation in how the franchise system is developed, organised and run. We believe that those impacted by decisions about services, including passengers and bus workers, should be involved in making those decisions. But recent events have shown us that public forums like these at full council meetings are one of the few avenues we as passengers have to democratically scrutinise the decisions of the West Yorkshire Mayor and Kirklees Council. The Mayor recently launched a consultation on bus design, proposing 3 very similar designs for new buses, all of which present the same access barriers for disabled passengers and parents, and are inconsistent with best practice bus design across the world for safe, frequent and efficient boarding. Doubling the doors on all new West Yorkshire Combined Authority buses on major town and city routes would be an important way to use the new powers we gain from public control of our buses to improve our bus network's reliability, speed and frequency. It would also be a key way to improve the bus riding experience for passengers. It would mean more space for those with buggies, prams, wheelchairs or relators in the area designated for them, which currently becomes crushed and difficult to move in and out of, both for them and for other passengers. Double-door buses also make for a much faster, more efficient and more frequent network. Data from Transport for London in 2022 found that the average time for a bus with a single door to board and alight was 40 seconds, compared with 14 seconds for a bus with double doors. Over a day, this could add up to hundreds of hours saved for bus lines that are currently chronically late. We know this is not an impossible demand. Leeds has run double-door buses for 45 years of its public transport history. First Group ran them for 17 years, and as recently as 2014, First introduced new double-door buses to the network. Concerns about bus stop boarding were not raised then. If in doubt, the Mayor could ask her head of franchising, as he was the CEO at First Bus West Yorkshire when double doors were last introduced. It is a wasted opportunity to continue to accept the decisions made about our bus network by for-profit companies. We deserve better from a publicly controlled bus network. We believe that the issues we raised today could have been avoided if West Yorkshire Combined Authority had engaged in genuine co-production with affected groups of passengers to identify the key changes needed. This is true across all aspects of the bus reform process in West Yorkshire. We call on the leader of Kirklees Council to use her seat on West Yorkshire Combined Authority and on Councillor Eric Firth to use his seat on the West Yorkshire Combined Authority Transport Committee to propose a West Yorkshire Transport Board with decision-making powers, which would include representatives of bus user groups, workers in the industry, community organisations, disability groups, and other civil society bodies to work alongside the Mayor and elected council representatives. Such a body would also be invaluable to the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, as it would provide an authentic local voice in any bid for equitable funding from central government for maintaining and improving local services. Our call is not a new idea. Public services, including in London, Paris, and now New York, often include passenger voices in decision-making. We will not accept a response that tells us it cannot be done.
Thank you. Councillor Crook to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Dilys, for your deputation and for your continued engagement as a bus user in Kirklees. I welcome your support for the positive decision taken by our Labour West Yorkshire Mayor Tracy Brabin in March 24 to move our bus services back under public control through franchising. I want to recognise the strength of feeling about how the new system should be developed and delivered, and I also recognise that this is felt particularly strongly because of the decline in services we have received as passengers since deregulation. Failing to put passengers before profit, running down standards of reliability and comfort, and other factors have all eroded bus services and trust in public transport. We need to rebuild that trust to achieve a reversal of reduced patronage levels, to serve our communities and to meet our shared environmental obligations. So I completely agree with you that getting franchising right is vitally important. Working closely with stakeholders, understanding insights from passengers, campaigners, community groups, unions and transport workers are all essential in getting this right. It is also important to be clear about roles and powers. Under the Bus Services Act 2017, the legal authority to make and operate franchising schemes sits with the Mayoral West Yorkshire Combined Authority, or WICA. Kirklees Council is a constituent authority, and our leader is our representative on the Combined Authority. Councillor Eric Firth sits on WICA's Transport Committee as Deputy Chair for Trains in particular, along with myself as Cabinet Member for Transport, Councillor Matthew McLaughlin as our Kirklees Engagement Lead, and several other cross-party members. Any proposal to create additional formal decision-making bodies, such as the Transport Board you suggest, has to be considered within WICA's statutory and constitutional framework, including duties around accountability, value for money and the Mayor's responsibilities. However, I share your view that strong public participation is vital, and WICA already undertakes formal consultations, informal engagement through Your Voice, Talking Transport sessions, and the next one of these will be in Marsden on the 28th of January, and I'd genuinely be very pleased if you could come along and have a longer chat with me about buses at that time, and through scrutiny committees. Further, opportunity to have input into our shared priorities exists through wider consultation and engagement on transport policy and strategy, including into Kirklees' first transport strategy, which was adopted last year. I agree there is always scope to strengthen how stakeholders can help shape transport policy, and specifically how franchising is implemented. I will discuss your proposals with colleagues in Kirklees and with our regional partners to ensure they are represented in those ongoing conversations. I also want to acknowledge the detailed points you raise about vehicle design, accessibility, passenger flow, and the operational evidence you reference relating to double-door layouts. It is worth noting that the experience from London does not necessarily translate directly to the operational parameters in West Yorkshire, both in terms of infrastructure and the safety of double-door access at all sites, and in terms of overall passenger numbers and consequent contention at entrance and exit points. Please can I reassure you that WICA's vehicle specifications must comply with national accessibility standards and balance factors such as safety, whole life cost, depot and stop infrastructure and fare collection policies. WICA has already undertaken statutory consultations on bus reform and recently ran, as you mentioned, an onboard buses design consultation. I am sure your input can be added into that wider evidence base. I absolutely share your ambition for a bus network that is successful, that is reliable, that is inclusive and genuinely shaped by the people who use it, with us all as passengers firmly at the wheel. While formal decision-making powers rest with the Mayor and the Combined Authority, I will, through my roles on the Bus Franchising Board and the Transport Committee, continue to advocate for strong, meaningful engagement so the lived experience of all stakeholders informs decisions at every stage of franchising. So thank you again for your deputation and for holding us all locally and regionally to account on behalf of passengers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And can we just clarify, Councillor Crook, when you say Mayor, you are referring to the West Yorkshire Mayor. Thank you. I just didn't want any confusion arising. Thank you. All right then. No more deputations? No. Okay. All right then. Are there any public petitions? No. Okay, thank you. So we now move on to item 7, public question time. 11 questions have been received and the responses have been published. Supplementary questions will be permitted if the person who has submitted the question is present at the meeting. In accordance with Council Procedure Rule 11.5, 15 minutes is permitted for this item. Okay. So can I invite Heather Peacock to come forward, please? And do you have a supplementary question? Thank you.
Sorry, what? Do I have a supplementary question? Yeah. Well, this is my question. I'm from Better Buses, West Yorkshire, like Dilys was with the deputation, and I'm wanting to ask about the bus station. I don't know how many of you use the bus station or go on the buses even from this council. But as a user, I've 22 journeys I use that bus station. I'm in and out of the bus station constantly, and it's an absolute disgrace. I don't want to take away from the staff because I can see them, they're working hard to clean up, do the toilets, empty the bins, etc. But the state of the bus station now, it's an absolute disgrace. You've got work on the top of the bus station with the car park, work outside. There's a building site outside. They were replacing tiles inside. They were cracked tiles. What is happening with the bus station? If anybody's been to Halifax and saw the fantastic bus station there, we deserve, as bus users, a brilliant station like that. What is happening with that? That's my question. What's happening with our bus station? Is it getting a refurbishment?
I think this was published in the Cabinet Member response, but Councillor Crook, do you just want to outline a little bit, please? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Heather, for your question, your further question. I mean, a lot of the question that you asked as your supplementary is a duplication of the answer that I've already given, but just to reiterate some of that, I absolutely agree that we deserve, as passengers, good infrastructure, and in particular the bus stations need to be upgraded, and I'm very pleased that the Huddersfield bus station is about to be upgraded with a £27 million investment and a combined project between the West Yorkshire Combined Authority and Kirklees Council. That's one of 3 bus stations that are either being brand new build or refurbished and will be Weaver branded as part of the taking back of control of bus services in West Yorkshire. In fact, the first Weaver branded bus station in West Yorkshire will be the Heckman Dwight bus station, which is well underway. Many of the issues that you feel with the bus station are being addressed by the renovation works. There will be, I think you mentioned toilets, there will be new facilities in the bus station, there will be much clearer sight lines, there will be higher performance windows and doors to make the bus station compliant with our 2038 commitment, as is an increase in patronage on our bus network. We will see new buses as well as part of the franchising process, so not just the bus stations but also the fleet will be higher quality and newer, and we will see larger bus stands so that the experiences you get on and off buses in the forward in and reverse out layout is improved as well. You mentioned the car park above the bus station. That's not actually part of the bus station renovation. That's a separate work underway now, and I realise there is some disruption as we upgrade these assets for the good of us all, but that it's short-term pain for long-term gain, and I think it is really important that we meaningfully invest in the bus stations but in the whole bus network across West Yorkshire to encourage modal shift as is compliant and in agreement with our transport strategy, and as we move towards 2038 and our carbon neutral commitments for then as well. So I hope that's given you a little bit more information about the rationale behind the bus station refurb. Thank you again for coming in.
Thank you. Could I ask Owen Ibbison, please, to come forward? This is question 2, and the Cabinet Member response has been published. Do you have a supplementary? Yeah.
If a retaining wall material specification has been value engineered and downgraded, and the council has been formally involved of this downgrade during the planning process, who is responsible if that retaining wall fails?
Thank you for your supplementary in your original question, which you had a response. If you have concerns about specific retaining wall, be it its construction method or its security, please forward those details to myself and the Highways Department, and we'll look into them for you.
Thank you. Question 3 then. Do you have a supplementary to question 3? Thank you.
Given the council publicly publishes summaries of site investigations while withholding the underlying data, can it be explained how this approach satisfies the council's transparency obligations when the information relates to environmental and public health risks?
Councillor Turner to respond.
Thank you for your question and your original question, which you received a detailed response. Where some information is held, sometimes that is subject to commercial sensitivities, and therefore it cannot be published in the public domain.
Thank you. Could I ask Tracy Ibbison to come forward, please? This is question 4, and the Cabinet Member response has been published. Do you have a supplementary?
I do.
I'm not sure who's answering it. Hiya. So given that traffic in Cleckheaton is already heavily congested, and residents feel unsafe pulling out of junctions, particularly alongside Westgate in Cleckheaton, and noting that there was a serious road safety concern that I reported to the Council on the 15th of October and not had a response yet, can the Cabinet member confirm that the specific highway safety and traffic management measures with clear timescales and will this be implemented before or alongside the proposed housing development?
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Ms Ibsen, for your question and supplementary as well. I can confirm that we will be fulfilling all of our obligations as a highways authority on the back of the development that's been processed through. That particular incident though, that you're talking about on October, please can you forward that along to me at a specific
It's not
case?
my job, you can chase that.
Well,
Thank
okay,
you.
fine then.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask Sarah Young to come forward, please? Sarah Young, please. This is question 5, and the Cabinet member response has been published. Do you have a supplementary? Thank you.
Might need to move it down for me here. Given that the Council does not approve or certify construction methods or structural protection through the planning process, can the Cabinet members explain what proactive measures the Council requires to ensure that piling activity near residential properties complies with BS 5228 and best practicable means, including whether baseline surveys and real-time monitoring of noise and vibration are expected or required, and how residents can be assured that compliance is being actively managed rather than only assessed following complaints?
Councillor Amanda Pinnock to respond.
Thank you for the question. A lot of what you've asked is in your original question, which has been responded to as well. But if I can just really just go into some of the specifics about what you're asking about. So any potential risks are normally dealt with at the planning stage, is my understanding. And at that stage, conditions are placed on the developer as to how they're supposed to deal with various things. So that's the first thing to mention that. And it's down to the developers to comply with those things. If they're not complied with, then that's where the local authority gets involved. So environmental health, they will do an assessment of noise or vibrations where it exceeds what's been agreed in the planning process and will adopt best practicable means. That's one of the conditions that the local authority deals with. In relation to any other breaches, there is provision under Section 60 of the Control of Pollution Act 1974 and also Section 80 of the Environmental Protection Act, which is to prevent a statutory nuisance. So in your question, you mentioned about the housing survey. Did you ask about the housing survey again in your supplementary? Yeah. So there's no statutory duty for a developer to carry out a housing survey, is my understanding. However, it is good practice for that to happen. It isn't something the local authority can impose on a developer, but it is recommended. Is there anything else that I haven't answered there? Ah, okay. All right. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Question 6 then, supplementary.
Yeah. So also, given that nearby commercial buildings may have asbestos-containing roofing materials and moss-covered roofs, both of which can be obviously more vulnerable to disturbance, how do we ensure that the piling-related vibration and associated works do not increase the risk of asbestos fibre release, roof degradation or structural damage? And are any additional safeguard assessments required for such circumstances beyond the general application of BS 5228?
That's very technical, but I can get back to you with an answer. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkins.
Can I move we suspend standing orders 11.5 to allow all public questions to be heard?
Is that seconded? So we have a proposal that the time is extended to hear all public questions. Can I put that to a vote, please? I think, will we do it by show of hands or will we go to the consoles? We'll go to the consoles then. Okay. It would just have been quicker with a show of hands. So the proposal is to extend the time for public questions. Thank you. We can take that as carried. One of these days I'm going to go by show of hands and I'm going to come unstuck. All right, so we will extend the time. I will have a break though at 20 to 7 because we need to start the key discussion item by 7 o'clock. All right, okay. All right, so question 7 then. Sharon Taylor, please. The Cabinet Member response.
I have, yeah. Hello, I'm Sharon. My supplementary question. Will the Council commit to improving awareness of planning applications among residents who are not digitally engaged? For example, through targeted notifications, community venues or ward-based communications such as letters through doors, especially for the housebound? And if so, what specific measures will be introduced and by when? Do you also review your system to ensure that all documents relating to the same site are actually in the same place as public experience finds them scattered all over the place?
Councillor Turner to respond.
Thank you for your question, Sharon. Whenever, I know what you mean about them being on the website, being scattered all over, when anybody puts a discharge of conditions or changes a plan, we then have to put those on the website. So sometimes it does look like there's a lot for a specific site, but that is because we have to publish those on the website. So as I say, discharge of conditions, change of use, all those sort of things sometimes does make it look quite complicated, but they're all there, they're all readily available, and if you just sometimes use the postcode, it will bring up that specific one, so it's a bit easier. Going back to the first part of your question, we meet all our statutory obligations around involving residents. We put site notices up where those residents are immediately close to development. We quite often deliver letters, but there's always been an argument of how wide that should be. But we meet all our statutory obligations around promoting and advising people about planning applications.
Thank you, thank you. Question 8 then, the response from the Cabinet Member has been published. You have a supplementary, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Question here is, recent council meeting discussions have raised concerns that a retaining wall associated with a newly built residential development local to Cleckheaton is visually dominant and unsympathetic to local character, contrary to national planning policy. Can the council explain how a structure of this scale is considered acceptable if it was located directly behind existing homes, including where it would sit outside ground and even upper floor windows, how it impacts on outlook, residential amenity and sense of enclosure for existing residents have been assessed, rather than focusing solely on views from surrounding roads, and on what basis such a structure is considered, considered positively to the area, rather than creating a physical and visual barrier between communities if residents are not driving past this wall but actually living behind it.
Councillor Turner to respond.
Thank you for the supplementary. I'm not aware of which wall we're talking about, so if you can send me the details, I will have a conversation with our Highways and Planning Department for you.
Thank you. Can I invite Karen McKenna to come forward, please? This is question 9, and the Cabinet Member response has been published. You have a supplementary.
Considering the Council's response regarding significant release of asbestos, does the Council have a technical criteria to define significant based on the fact UCAS testing has identified above trace levels near or adjacent grounds historically recognised by the council as having asbestos. What specific investigations have the council undertaken to determine whether redevelopment projects are mobilising the asbestos fibres, and what precautionary controls are in place while assessments are ongoing?
Councillor Pinnock to respond.
Technical questions. What I can say in response is everything is dealt with by a case-by-case basis, and I'm not aware of something that is significant. That's something that would need to be assessed by the environmental health team as to whether it's significant, but also the level of risk as well to members of the public. What I'd ask you to do really is, I'll respond to that in writing for you.
Yes, please,
and deal with those
I'd like
specific
definition of
issues.
significant,
Yeah,
because
because you've asked a few.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, question 10 then. The Cabinet Member response has been published. Do you have a supplementary?
I do. When the Council received a letter before action, you stated, consider the content and respond with any relevant pre-action protocol. In my opinion, that's a very generic response to a question asking for a specific process. So could the Cabinet Member set out in detail the internal processes undertaken upon receipt of the LBA? Which officers or departments review the LBA? How internal fact-finding and evidence reviews are conducted, particularly looking at experienced solicitor findings? How legal compliance is assessed and assured? What governance, senior officer or monitoring officer oversights apply when issues of lawfulness arise? And how these steps are documented to ensure full transparency, accountability and auditability prior to a response being issued?
Councillor Dadd to respond.
Thank you, Karen. So you have had a response to the original question and you've said it was quite generic. In terms of the details that you've asked for, I will go back to the relevant service team and officers and come back to you in writing with an answer for that, because you've asked a few things in there which I, at this moment, don't have answers to. I'm not fully aware of the particular case because it's not something that I'm dealing with at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Question 11. Can I ask Jennifer Devlin to come forward, please? The answer, Cabinet Member response has been published. Do you have a supplementary?
Should I start? Good evening. Thank you for the answer to the original question. My supplementary is that there is mention in that answer of a transitional bus board, and yet there doesn't appear to be any information about this board anywhere in WICA's publicly available documents. So could you tell me who are the members of this board and how were they selected or elected, and are there any representatives of disability groups or bus worker unions on it? Will you make the minutes of the Transitional Bus Board publicly available so the people of West Yorkshire can see what is being decided on their behalf?
Councillor Crook to respond.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your question. That's quite an interesting point. So we need to make a distinction between the formal committees of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority and the informal meetings. I think that in the case of the board that I was referencing, that's an informal group of the transport portfolio holders from across the region, and so those meetings are not formally minuted or noted or recorded in the way that you are asking for a record to be presented, so that's not possible, unfortunately. But the Transport Committee, the formal board that looks at transport matters, and the Combined Authority itself are both minuted and a webcast, so you are able to see any decision-making that happens. The transitional board that I referenced is not a decision-making body.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That brings an end to public questions. So we'll move on to item 8, the half-yearly monitoring on Treasury management activities 25 and 26. I believe this is Councillor Turner.
Madam Mayor, thank you. This is here this evening for noting and is a reference from Cabinet. So, colleagues, I'm pleased to present the half-year Treasury Management Monitoring Report for 25-26. This report provides assurance that our Treasury Management activities continue to be conducted prudently, in full compliance with the SIPC Code of Practice and the Council's approved strategy. As members will know, the Council has adopted the SIPC Code of Practice on Treasury Management, which requires regular reporting to ensure transparency and accountability. This mid-year report covers the period from 1st of April to 30th of September 2025 and has already been reviewed by the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. The Council's Treasury Management function has operated within all approved prudential indicators and limits. External investments averaged 98.8 million during the period, generating 1.191 million in income, with an average return of 4.21%. Can I carry on without interruptions? Because it's like being at a football match. So our strategic investment in the Local Authority Property Fund continues to deliver steady returns with a net yield of 3.86%. Net borrowing increased by 10.2 million from 715.4 at the end of March to 725.6 million at the end of September, reflecting the capital programme and cash flow requirements. Members will also be aware that the economic backdrop remains challenging, certainly does. Inflation rose from 2.6 in March to 3.8 in September. Still above the Bank of England's target, the bank rate was reduced twice during the period from 4.5 to 4%, and further risk reductions are expected as the growth remains weak. Our approach to borrowing and investment strategy remains focused on security and liquidity. With diversification across counterparties, borrowing has been undertaken only for legitimate purposes, cash flow management, refinancing and funding capital expenditure directly related to council functions. During the period, we secured 67.5 million in new loans, balancing cost certainty and flexibility. The Treasury Management Revenue budget for 25-26 is 36.1 million, and I'm pleased to report that the forecast outturn is currently 1.8 million under budget. That's thanks to higher investment income and borrowing rates below those assumed. On the compliance and risk management, all activities have fully complied with the SIPC Code and our approved strategy. We continue to manage risk proactively, supported by our Treasury advisors, ensuring the Council's financial position remains robust. Chair, Mayor, can I thank the team for putting together this report? Colleagues, this report demonstrates that our Treasury management function is operating effectively and prudently in a volatile economic environment. So I ask Council to note this report this evening. Thank you very much.
Councillor Pattison.
And reserve the right, sorry.
Are there any comments or questions on this item? Councillor Turner, do you wish to reply to no responses?
Function and treasury management, whilst sometimes it's very technical, it is important because it does ensure that we have readily cash available when we need it. We can borrow it at preferential rates and move money around as and when we get a better deal. So as I say, I understand there's no question because for some people it's not the most exciting thing in the world. And I really can't pan this out till 22 any longer, so I've done my best.
I'm afraid, Councillor Taylor, we've gone past the point, but thank you for trying. But we've gone past that point, I'm afraid, Councillor Taylor. Okay. So the item is for noting only, so thank you. We're duly noted, I think. Now then, I'm going to take the break now because there's no point starting written questions for 10 minutes. Okay. So we will take the break now and we will come back at 10 to 7. Okay, thank you. Okay. Our key discussion item needs to start by 7 p.m. So we will come back to item 9, written questions, and we will start the key discussion item. So this evening's key discussion will be with the elected Mayor Tracy Brabin. There will be a 10-minute presentation by the elected Mayor on her priorities, which will be followed by a question and answer session. There will be 60 minutes in total for this item. So after the presentation, if members can request us to speak as normal, to ask a question, and then I will broadly be able to apply proportionality across groups. Okay, and each member that asks a question will be permitted to then ask one supplementary question. All right, okay. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you so much. And what a pleasure to be back here in Kirklees. Can I just alert everybody, though, to the issue of the moment that my eldest daughter is about to have a baby tomorrow. So if I get waving from Mike Hawkin, that means that I've got to go immediately to the LGI. So you will excuse me if I have to run off, but it's for those of you that have grandchildren, everybody tells me it's the most magical thing, so I can't wait. So thank you so much. And honestly, what a pleasure, as always, to come back to Kirklees. As you know, my hometown, Batley, where I grew up, and I will always have an affinity with Kirklees, and I want you to thrive and do well. And as you know, having grown up in a council flat, and you all know this, and being able to spend 30 years in the creative industries as an actor and a writer, then becoming the Member of Parliament for my hometown, and now Mayor of my home region, representing 2.4 million people who live in West Yorkshire, securing deeper devolution, additional money and greater control, so that all of us, people elected by those living in the region, we, the people, can decide where that money is best invested to ensure that it's going to the priorities we have as a region, as local people, and not on the whim of people in Whitehall and Westminster. And ultimately, isn't that why we're all here? To make things better for the people that we represent. And sometimes it can get lost in politics, can't it? But as some of you will remember very vividly, the formidable Jo Cox, there is more that unites us than divides us. And sometimes politics can make our divisions seem more urgent, more pressing, and especially in the run-up to elections. And I'm sure there'll be some points this evening or weeks ahead where our differences potentially are exaggerated. But if we're honest, all of us in this room, councillors and officers, we're all here to serve the public, to make life better for the people that we care about, our friends and our family. And can I just say from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for all that you do. It doesn't matter that we are different parties. You all work hard for your communities, because being a councillor is often a thankless task. And not easy. The hours you spend speaking to constituents, resolving issues they're facing, sometimes in the most difficult circumstances. Only then to see that evening criticised on social media for all that you've done when it didn't go to plan. And I know that things in recent years have been made more difficult as budgets have been squeezed and decisions have become harder and harder. So I'm really pleased that we have a government that has eased the financial burden for you after great campaigning from local leaders. And you might take that as a party political point, but actually, frankly, it's not, because the needs of the communities of Kirklees are greater than other parts of the country. You need more resources to be able to meet those needs. And I'm sure you'll all agree, you know, wherever the money came from, that new money is always welcome. Now, at tomorrow's combined authority meeting, we will agree our own budget for next year. It's the first year of our integrated settlement, where all of those funding streams come under one umbrella. Now, that's only possible because we've been acknowledged by government as a mature and established mayoral authority, and it's a budget worth more than 1.2 billion for our region. Now, that is money that's only available because of devolution, because we have a mayor, because government has the confidence in our region to really deliver. Now, the budget's going to set out how we'll allocate money towards building homes, investing in transport infrastructure, supporting the growth of businesses, and supporting people to develop new skills and get into good quality jobs. I know many of you in this chamber will want to ask seemingly simple question, how much of that money is coming to Kirklees? But with the greatest of respect, that sort of misses the point. It misses the point that investment to grow the economy of West Yorkshire benefits people living in Kirklees regardless of where the money is spent. Take mass transit, the biggest local transport scheme in the country. Whilst the first phase will see trams built in Leeds and Bradford, we've of course ambitions for the second phase to extend on to Dewsbury. But the first phase will benefit people living right here in Huddersfield, in Dewsbury, in Murfield, in Home Firth. Because if you've got a sick parent in St James's, before too long, rather than having to drive there and pay extortionate prices for parking, you will be able to jump on a tram and get into the city centre. You'll be able to go for visiting hours, knowing how long that tram is going to take. A student in Dewsbury might be more likely to pick a college education in Leeds because they have better transport. And a business owner in Slough, the village I love, is going to be more easily available to meet suppliers in Leeds or Bradford. These huge transport infrastructure investment do not just benefit the communities directly around them, but communities across the region in Kirklees, in Wakefield, Calderdale, and of course Bradford and Leeds. But there is no bigger investment transport scheme anywhere in the north of England than the Transpennine route upgrade, which is going to be of enormous benefit to people across Kirklees. And I know, and I felt it, that the works, the blockades, the delays, they can be tough. But the pain is temporary to create a brighter future. And just look at the difference it's already made to Huddersfield Station. And I know there's so much more to do. The new viaduct at Ravensthorpe, if you haven't seen it, Google it. It is a massive bit of engineering, which is going to make it easier to run fast, direct services between Manchester, Huddersfield and Leeds, alongside the all-important local services which connects communities across Kirklees. The investment in Transpennine upgrade is as vital to our regional ambitions as the tram is. Now, our local growth plan, which has been agreed by all leaders in West Yorkshire, puts connectivity and densification of our major towns and cities as central to our ambitions, because we know that is what has been holding our economy back. Poor transport links between urban centres, too few homes in places where people want to live, work and socialise. And frankly, if government weren't investing in the Transpennine upgrade, we'd be pushing them and fighting like hell for them to do so, because that is vital connectivity east to west. Or even maybe committing our own money to getting the investment across the line. Thankfully, we don't have to do that. But anybody trying to think about how much money Kirklees specifically is getting out of the combined authority is missing the point, because there is a few £billion of Transpennine route upgrade that would need to be added to the balance. And the investment in rail will work seamlessly alongside our new integrated Weaver network. Having taken the decision to franchise the bus network in 24, the first franchised buses will be on our roads in a year's time, and Kirklees is the first region to benefit from the Weaver network. That means buses we control, routes we choose, at a price we can set. It's going to be a transformation in our region's public transport network. Built around a clear public offer, it's integrated, smart and responsive to passenger needs. And in Kirklees, you'll begin to see the evidence of the Weaver network sooner than most as part of our cost-effective brand rollout. The new Heckmondwike bus station, due to open later this year, will be the first in the region to carry that Weaver brand, swiftly followed by Dewsbury and Huddersfield with an electrified bus fleet. Now, this matters because for too long, passengers have had a really crap service in Kirklees and across West Yorkshire. We are going to change that. Being in control means we set the standards. We are setting the expectations for the passenger experience, designing a public bus service that people deserve. Now, I know that there was also a deputation earlier this evening which asked, why aren't we doing more? Why can't we introduce double-doored buses straight away? And frankly, I get it. When you go to London, you see those double-door buses, and they're brilliant, and they make it easier to get on and to get off. And you do see it in capital cities, but unfortunately, the infrastructure we have means it's not possible. So, for example, the double door may open, but you are not on the pavement, you're in the road, and we don't have that infrastructure. But that doesn't mean to say we can't introduce them in time. We will be in control. We have ambitions for our region. We want our Weaver network to be the best outside of London, if not better than London. And I believe that collectively, as a group of councillors and your MPs across the region, working with your mayor and with central government, we can deliver on those ambitious plans that you all share for your community to make life better, brighter and more hopeful for the people of Kirklees and West Yorkshire. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right then, I will open it up for questions. So can members please indicate that they wish to ask questions? Okay. All right, thank you. So, Councillor Anthony Smith. Hi, Anthony.
Thank you for attending again and putting yourself up for our scrutiny.
It's always a pleasure.
Very much appreciated. Madam Mayor, you're currently consulting on the 2026-2027 policing precepts at a time when West Yorkshire Police faces a circa £10 million funding gap. Now, our communities in Kirklees consistently tell us that they value visible neighbourhood policing above all else. Police community support officers are often the only regular policing presence that residents see. They're also the intelligence engine of our force. They build unrivalled relationships and provide high-quality recruitment pipeline for future officers. However, we have seen PCSO numbers nationally and regionally come under pressure due to budget constraints. Are you able to commit to maintaining and, where appropriate, increasing PCSO numbers in the upcoming budget? And furthermore, will you look to the success of initiatives like Police Points in Bradford, where officers hold regular sessions locally to hear direct ward concerns, and commit to rolling out this model of hyperlocal accessibility across every ward in West Yorkshire where there is a demand? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I'm really pleased that you've asked it because I was just at an event with local community leaders talking about this very thing, the consultation on the precept. So for background, West Yorkshire Police is the 4th largest police force in the country with the 4th lowest precept. We have a budget black hole of £10 million. This precept uplift, which is a small amount of money because the majority of our homes are A to C, is going to deliver 3.5 million. So we still have a black hole, but we still have, it would be incredibly helpful in that we want to see, as you've just described, the PCSOs on the beat. Now, just for understanding that with the previous government, police forces were invited to take more police officers, and that was a police cap. And we said in West Yorkshire Police that we would take those officers. But what the government are saying is that cap needs to stay at that level, and that if we were to lose any police officer, then we would have to give back to government, I think it's £88,000 or something, because the government want us to keep police officers. But with the gap that we have at the moment, that will mean that the numbers of PCSOs are under threat. Now, we've already, I think that we're light on about 70, something like that. And I know that communities really value PCSOs. And as you say, that is about the eyes and ears. It's about community understanding. I have funded through my apprenticeship share scheme, apprenticeship levy share scheme, PCSOs to go on the bus network because I know how valuable they are. However, crime is becoming increasingly complex, it's becoming digitized, it's large networks, it's very, very expensive. If we don't agree a precept, we will see more cuts to PCSOs. So it's a complex picture, but just to reassure councillors that whilst nobody is complacent whatsoever, our knife-enabled robberies are down by 18%, knife crime is down, antisocial behaviour in comparison to the national framework is down by 33%. We are seeing the numbers turning positively for victims of domestic violence and sexual violence, and more importantly, the outcomes of people getting justice is also rising, and confidence in the police is rising. So we're not there yet, but I would encourage everybody to take part in the consultation, and I would encourage everyone to accept the uplift in the precept.
Councillor Smith, do you have a supplementary?
Appreciate all you've said, Tracy, particularly in respect of the budget pressures. I would just reiterate, though, that the yellow vest effect, the confidence that brings to the public, and all of those other benefits that I've highlighted, and pound for pound, I honestly think PCSOs, and I'm sure many of my colleagues here would agree, offer extremely good value. And as I say, they are the eyes and ears of the force. They reach the places where officers can't because of their other commitments and constraints. And I would just, from the bottom of my heart, please support our PCSOs.
I will, and that's definitely something that I just echo what you're saying. What we are also seeing, which is disappointing, is that specials, you'll know that those volunteer police officers, the numbers are falling. So we're also hopefully going to be encouraging people to step up as special police officers. They do an incredible job. They've often got another job that pays the bills, and they dedicate their time to going onto the streets to protect us and our loved ones. So it's a complex picture, but I am really impressed with West Yorkshire Police's approach to our police and crime plan. They have been partners, whilst we hold them to account, and we will always do that, they have been partners in trying to get
Thank you. It is on at our side of the public microphone. So, yeah, so we'll just sort that out. But can I just remind members that it is 50 minutes for questions, and there is a long list of people wishing to ask questions.
I'll be more brief.
Okay. So, can I just remind members of that? Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and welcome to Kirklees, Tracy. We're delighted that we're beginning to see improvements to the rail network in the Colne Valley. Under the previous government, sort of twiddled their fingers for quite a long time while promising us lots of investment. But we're delighted that the consultation for the transparent route upgrade between Standage Tunnel and Huddersfield is scheduled to begin next month, which is going to start a fantastic process. We'll see fully accessible step-free access at Slough and Marsden stations, platform extensions and a third track between Marsden and Huddersfield. One of the things that we've been calling for as Colne Valley councillors, working with local commuter group Slough and Marsden Action and Rail Transport, has been an increase in passenger services to 2 per hour at Marsden and Slough. What has been promised as part of the transparent route upgrade is really positive and will have a big effect and improvement on passenger services in the Colne Valley. But we'd really like to see that commitment to 2 trains per hour because of the benefits it will bring our communities and our local economy. So would you be willing to join us in calling upon 2 trains per hour as a result of the Transpine Route upgrade? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. And it's brilliant that that work, that consultation is starting to happen. And like I say, living in Slough, I always was frustrated that there were 2 trains an hour at peak times, but then if you wanted to come back later in the evening or in the afternoon, it was 1 an hour. I've just given evidence in front of the Rail Bill Committee in Parliament yesterday, and in the Rail Bill there is a real appetite for further devolution of rail to metro mayors across the country. And I think this is a fantastic, if you pardon the pun, direction of travel, because absolutely to your point, how can anybody at GBR, at Great British Rail, know that the people of Marsden and Slough want 2 trains an hour? So this is what, it was myself and Andy Burnham and Jason Prince from the Urban Transport Group giving evidence, and we were all in agreement that deeper devolution should also be a statutory relationship that mayors have at the centre of GBR, where we around the table, and whilst of course we're not timetabling, East Coast Main Line necessarily, but we can talk about those local routes that are really important for our communities and increase confidence for people to move out of Leeds potentially and move to the villages and towns and boosting economies because of people working maybe in tech in Leeds with high-paid jobs coming and spending their monies in towns and villages. So I'm with you. I think that the key to it is further deeper devolution, and just to reassure you, that's what we've been banging on about yesterday. And I think it's all online if you'd like to see it.
Supplementary? Okay, thank you. Councillor David Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
The best singer in Kirklees.
Oh, heck. You're not going to get any now, I'll tell you that. Well, what a compliment. Welcome, Tracy. Good to have you with us, and thank you for your address. I was wanted to return as well to the police and crime plan, particularly, and about an issue which we all get in our inboxes, about something I'm sure you'll be able to help us, and that is traffic crime and traffic and antisocial behaviour. In the police and crime plan at the moment, there isn't much of a mention of traffic crime. It does get a mention.
Would you give me an example, Councillor? Traffic crime, is that theft of cars?
Speeding, particularly speeding, antisocial parking, theft of vehicles, drunk driving, and that kind of thing. Where the police have, we want them to nab people and catch them at it. There's not much of a mention of traffic crime in the policing plan. There never has been, ever since I was a member of the Police Authority and the Police and Crime Panel. I've always been battling away to try and get traffic crime bumped up the priority list, because it's one of those issues that everybody sees, and although some might say, well, it's a minor issue compared to a lot of offences, if a guy goes down the street at 100 miles an hour, there's dozens of people notice it and dozens of people are affected by it. So there is a mention of Vision Zero in there, so I was going to ask you about Vision Zero particularly. We're halfway through that plan now for Vision Zero, because it's 24 to 27. Have we any indications yet as to whether the 12 months targets in there have been achieved, or we're going somewhere to meeting those?
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you've raised this, because I'm really proud of Vision Zero, of our ambitions for it, and that it's so important to me, and that's why inviting Alison Lowe, my Deputy Mayor, to chair Vision Zero, the board, I think was really important, because you may know that she lost her sister at age 3 to a traffic accident. Her sister ran out of the garden and was hit by a car. But we've also seen in Parliament the debate around Vision Zero. It looks like through devolution I'm going to get responsibilities for on-pavement parking. But also we have been campaigning for graduated licenses for new drivers. Because the numbers are far too high for young people who've just passed their test. The numbers are high because they take their mates in the car. and the cars are often full. So it's a tragedy, and we have to do something about that. I don't think the government, can I be candid, has gone far enough, and we are pressing for those graduated licenses. But to your point about targets, I mean, our target is 0 deaths or serious injuries on the road. Have we gone far enough? Of course not, because every single accident or death is unacceptable. What was quite surprising was when you heard, and this is not a party political point, but Nigel Farage saying he was very comfortable with people drink driving, having a drink and getting behind a wheel. I'm not comfortable with that, and I'm sure most people in this room would not be comfortable with that. Wherever you live, you should not be drunk behind a wheel, because we know where that ends up. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Hall, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your response, Tracy. You may know that many councillors in Kirklees use our ward budgets to pay for Operation Trimberg, which is basically paying the police overtime to sit there and try and catch speed and other things. I wonder whether you could commit, please, to giving a greater priority to traffic crime in the next crime and policing plan, and also to commit that policing traffic should be part and parcel of the everyday activity of the police, and should not have to be funded by ward councillors using their ward budget to pay overtime to the police. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Obviously, as a ward councillor, you know where the pinch spots are. And I know that there are some communities that have invested in the speeding gun, and they then take it upon themselves in order to do that work. I do see your point about who is responsible for speeding cars and so on. But I think the mitigations you make as councillors, whether that's speed bumps, whether that's cameras, all of that is so welcome. And we've had a budget to help you with those initiatives. So if you would be happy, I'd be happy to send you the opportunity that you can do more in your community.
Councillor Andrew Cooper.
I'm on. Okay. The government announced last week the opening of expressions of interest for the UK Town of Culture, with £3 million up for grabs for the successful town. Huddersfield is already a town of culture. Huddersfield Contemporary Music Festival, the Mrs Sunderland competition, Huddersfield Choral Society, loads of dance and theatre groups, bands and singer-songwriters, including my son Toby. Will you back a Huddersfield bid to be UK Town of Culture by dedicating from existing budgets funding towards a Huddersfield bid?
Thank you so much for that question. As you know, we funded Kirklees Year of Culture, a year of music, and it was hugely successful. In fact, I was with the Secretary of State for DCMS last night, and I asked this very question around winners and losers. Because I often feel in these competitions that people spend an awful lot of time, effort, money to make these bids. I have been reassured from the Secretary of State that it is very, very straightforward, and at every stage there is not a reward, but there is an impact on your community. So the first round, there is the elevation of all the people who've applied. The next round, there is a funding pot for you to deepen your bid. There is money at every stage along the way. So even if you don't win, you will have money invested in your town to continue your ambitions for the town of culture. I, of course, would support 100% lobbying for Huddersfield, any town in West Yorkshire that would like to bid. I can't show preference, as you can imagine. I'm sure there are other towns are available that might want to apply. But just rest assured, more seriously, the impact of our years of culture rolling on to Bradford City of Culture have been utterly phenomenal. and talking to the CEO of Airbnb about the impact for Bradford has hit the whole region, because they've identified a new traveller called the adventurer. Often couples or groups of friends who want to go to something cultural, like the Turner Prize in Bradford, but then want to go climbing or go to see Haworth, or they want to go to the Red House or Oakwell Hall. They want experiences and adventures. They're staying in Airbnbs, but they're moving across the whole region. So what's good for Huddersfield is good for all of us.
I'm glad you've mentioned Bradford City of Culture, because City of Culture, as opposed to Town of Culture, because it's £700 million is the estimated value to Bradford by 2030 of that investment. And that's money from the Arts Council that's gone into Bradford, money from the National Lottery that's gone into Bradford. So it's a really great opportunity, not just to spend money, but to get money into Kirklees to help develop our area. So you have got dedicated funds for the creative sector, several of them, which I've noticed, and it could very easily, whatever town is, there are other towns are available, but Huddersfield's the best. But can some of that money could be directed to help the successful bid for UK Town of Culture, which will be Huddersfield.
Thank you so much. And back in the day when I was an MP, I worked with Yvette Cooper on a Town of Culture programme. So it's something that's very close to my heart, because it was a piece of work I was very proud of, because I know that it isn't always about the big shiny shows. It's about communities coming together in a choir, in a drumming group, in a painting group, or having an art show. It is, it's about a sense of belonging, well-being, a sense of place, and of course, tourism and investment. My point, Councillor, if I may, is having spoken to the Secretary of State, it doesn't sound like you're going to need a whole chunk of money to make the bid. It's not like the Arts Council, which is often quite complex. You need advisors. These bids are made explicitly simple so that people can, from all over the country, apply. Obviously, there are opportunities with creative funding pots from the council. There may be other ways to do that. Maybe a business would sponsor you, but my understanding is it is not too complicated.
Thank you. Councillor Kendrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a regular bus user, I'd like to go back to the bus issue. I was very interested in the lady who came with the deputation and her passion about double doors, and I absolutely accept what you said about infrastructure. But I am concerned that that's great if you're very mobile. Currently, and I'm sure it's not insurmountable, people with pushchairs, prams, wheelchairs, walkers have a space really at the front of the bus, so they don't have to come far into the bus, they can get off again very quickly. If they have to wander with a toddler and a pushchair or whatever, all the way through a bus to a double door, that's not necessarily the best thing for them. I don't think it's insurmountable. I'd just ask, as that goes on and develops, that that's taken into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And long may the bus passenger live. So thank you for using the buses. To your point about choices, we have had the bus consultation where the public have told us what type of bus do they want before we go out to procurement. We've put in an order, we're looking at 70 million for electric buses, but we want them to suit the public. And that choice is difficult. Do we have a space for a buggy and a wheelchair? If so, then there's less space for people to sit down. More people are standing. What's really important for young people is to charge their phones. Also for neurodivergent passengers, what do they want to see on the bus? I've heard really painful stories about people in a wheelchair at a bus stop, and because there's a buggy in the space, the bus goes past them and they have to wait another hour in the rain. That's totally unacceptable, and that's why going out to the public asking, what do you actually want? This is what devolution is all about, bringing the buses back into public control. We can collectively, as a community, decide what type of buses we want. Now, I haven't heard a huge ask for double doors. You do see them in London because massive crowding on buses and lots of people standing. Like I say, we don't have the dropped curbs and the lengthened curbs that you see in London. But the consultation will guide us in our procurement design for buses. But I have seen the design for the Weaver bus and the Weaver bus stations, and it's a Bobby Dazzler. I'm really excited about it, and I hope you will like it too.
Supplementary, Councillor Kendall.
Simply a comment, I await with excitement the Weaver buses at Heckman White bus station.
Excellent, you're first, so that's always good.
Councillor Darwin.
Thank you, Mayor Brabin. You have committed tens of millions of pounds to tackling the climate emergency, particularly through home insulation and carbon reduction. Given that fuel poverty, cold homes and high energy bills remain widespread in Kirklees, can you explain how much of this funding has directly reached our borough, what measurable carbon and cost savings have been achieved so far, and how you will ensure these investments deliver tangible benefits for residents rather than remaining headline commitments?
Thank you so much for that question. And it's very pertinent. As you may have seen today, Ed Miliband and myself collectively launched the Warmer Homes plan that is rolling out warm homes across the country. But here in West Yorkshire, we haven't waited for the government. We have led from the front because we have some of the coldest, oldest homes, the most people in fuel poverty. I mean, nearly 20% of our communities are in fuel poverty. It's totally unacceptable. And that's why I was really pleased to see one of the pilots you had in Kirklees, which was full retrofit. And the families were so blown away, not just with the lower bills and their warmer homes, but they were much quieter. And I hadn't contemplated that, but they were talking about having nuisance motorbikes outside the house, and actually made the house quieter because the windows actually fit. So today we have reiterated our plan to spend £20 million on the Home Energy West Yorkshire, which is a one-stop shop. It's for everybody, whatever tenure, and you will get bespoke hand-holding through the whole process to guaranteed fitters. You can have just windows, you could have a ground source heat pump, you could have solar panels. We've had a collective solar panel buying scheme where communities have come together, and because of the numbers, they've brought the prices right down and saved themselves tens of thousands of pounds, and obviously brought in lots of private sector investment as well. I am determined to also make sure that those who live in the coldest homes, who don't own those homes, have the opportunity to have a warm home, which is why we're committed to 10,000 social homes to be retrofit at no cost to the tenant. That's really important for me because it's not just about, obviously, you know, people with a bit of extra money might want to put on solar panels or get a ground source heat pump to bring down their bills. But those people who are living, you know, paycheck to paycheck or just getting by shouldn't have to live in the cold.
Supplementary, Councillor Darwin.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you confirm how many homes in Kirklees have actually been insulated using this funding to date, and by when residents will see a clear reduction in both emissions and energy bills?
I can show you that, and I'm very happy to share those numbers directly with you. As you know, these numbers are iterating as more people come online and want to investigate and to inquire about what mitigations they can take to reduce fuel poverty. But I'm very happy to provide those numbers for the councillor.
Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you, Matt. Hello, and thanks for coming. And best of luck to your daughter over the coming hours, and hopefully,
terrified on her
hopefully not days. A little while ago, possibly 2018, people would correct me if I'm wrong, we had a democracy commission at Kirklees. Part of that commission, one of the outstanding parts of that commission, I remember, was the need to consult people and to integrate communities into decision making before decisions were made, to make them an integral part of that decision making process. With that in mind, would you support the proposal for a West Yorkshire Transport Board made up of passengers, community groups and transport workers to ensure elderly and disabled bus pass holders as well have a seat on that board? And would you allow them to make decisions about their own transport needs in the process of making decisions?
Thank you, and I do appreciate the spirit in which that question is asked, because you're absolutely right that we are not going to copy the Westminster model where we just make decisions and then it's done to people. That's why we've undertaken several dozens consultations, whether that's mass transit, whether that's buses. You might remember Tell Tracy about bus. We have worked really extensively across West Yorkshire with disability groups. You may see that we've brought in the Orange Pass for hidden disabilities that came out of conversations with groups. At every point we have consultations where people can feed in. We have been lobbied for a board of what you've described, and we've looked into it historically, and we've come to the conclusion that it would just be repeating work that's been undertaken in public consultations. But if you wanted to send me an email with another iteration of what it could look like, then please do. But we do believe that the decisions we make are made in the most transparent fashion possible.
Supplementary, Councillor Law.
Yes, thanks for that. I think there is a lot to be said of the continuity that a board has to offer. So seeing various projects through rather than the stop-start nature of consultation. So I think I'll leave that there just as a comment. I think the other thing that we've talked about double-door buses today quite a bit. But I think there's something serious here about reviewing the purchase of the new fleet. We know it's not going to happen all at once. We know that we can't move to double doors all at once. But the search for opportunities to do that, we can do that now. So would you undertake to at least start some investigations about how that can come into place and how we can address those infrastructure issues? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Just on the last point, we have looked at it. I requested, because I've seen it in London, I've requested information about the pros and cons of it. We are currently procuring single door buses, but that is not to say, notwithstanding infrastructure changes in our urban realm, that we could look again. But please do email me regarding the board. As you know, we have the scrutiny committee, and I'm held to account very robustly at the scrutiny committee.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Tracy. Not my usual question to you.
You surprised me. I can't wait to see what's coming.
It's thoughts and feelings, Tracy, about the last 4 years as far as police, how you feel yourself and the team have influenced and bettered the police in West Yorkshire. That's all.
Yeah, well, that's a question for quite a conversation, isn't it? But I would say that the police and crime plan that was developed with the public for the safety and confidence of the public with the police, I do believe that West Yorkshire Police have lent into that. Have there been times when they could have done more? Absolutely. Have there been times when there have been civil disturbances where decisions were made? Would we have made those decisions? We hold the Chief Constable to account in COM. You'll know the public forum where the public can see us hold a Chief Constable to account. But we have a rigorous police and crime plan. We are now going out to our serious violence strategy. I was today at the launch with our community leaders and encouraging them to get involved in our serious violence strategy, which is out to consultation. Please do feedback and give us your thoughts. And there I was able to announce as well £500,000 that is the People's Fund, and it's £100,000 for Kirklees, for communities to take action in their community where there are projects that you feel will help make people safer, support women and girls, combat knife crime, tackle antisocial behaviour. So we launched today the People's Fund, and I'm hoping that you could, as councillors, really lean into that. But has everything gone perfectly? No. But when I reflect on police forces up and down the country, the Metropolitan Police potentially, or others, where you've had chief constables having to resign for making huge errors and misleading select committees, etc. You know, there are many police forces across the country I would be less satisfied with. Have we delivered everything? I do think my commitment to make West Yorkshire the safest place to be a woman or a girl, we have become a national leader in that space and have been cited in many ministerial speeches and events as actually a national leader.
Supplementary, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just looking at a few statistics, Tracy, from different governing bodies. We've got in West Yorkshire, burglaries increased by 14% over the last 3 years, which is above the national average. We've got vehicle crime 15% up last 3 years, above national average. Robberies 5% up above national average. Shoplifting is down, but mainly because of non-reporting of some of the stores, because they don't get any response anywhere from a lot of the shoplifting. We've got the Peel report, also I think was last year, that gave us, requires improvement on investigating crime. Leadership was adequate and protecting the vulnerable was adequate. From those results over the last 3 years and to the present, I just wondered, have you thought about what you can and Alison can do in the short-term future to be able to improve on these statistics, Tracy?
I don't recognise the statistics you opened with, because my understanding is that particularly around knife crime, knife-enabled robberies, attendances at A&E with a sharp object injury are going in the right direction, they're going down. So we may disagree on statistics, but your point about the Peel report is absolutely accurate, and we have demanded from West Yorkshire Police an understanding of how they're going to put those things right. That's why we're there, to hold them to account and to ensure that they show us what is going to be put in place, so when we do get the next review, that those things will have been addressed. But you have to look at it, and of course it only matters to us. West Yorkshire Police is what matters to us. But looking at it across the country, when you look at forces of equivalent size, Greater Manchester Police, for example, or Nottinghamshire, you know, we are not complacent, but we will do our job to hold the police to account. But it is a very challenging. It's a very challenging times we live in. But we will always make sure that when we get those reports, we demand evidence of what they're going to do to put it right.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you for your presentation, Tracy. It's greatly accepted, and I hope it goes well tomorrow for your daughter. So, Mayor, residents in Dewsbury and Batley and across North Kirklees are often pointed to individual projects that evidence of investment, including Dewsbury Bus Station, which is now under construction, and the proposed mass transit system, which remains at feasibility stage, and the new police station. While these are very welcome and we want to see them delivered, they do not in themselves amount to wider regeneration or economic growth strategies for our town. Beyond these schemes, what concrete funded regeneration economic investment is being delivered now in Dewsbury, Batley and North Kirklees? And when will the residents see wider visible change on the ground? And linked to that, many elected councillors in this chamber and across Kirklees have no seat at the table at the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. When we've raised these concerns, we've been told to read the minutes of the meeting. So how can you propose to do a meaningful way of involving elected members in shaping and scrutinising the mayoral decisions that directly affect our communities, rather than limiting engagement to a small number of leaders? And I know that's possibly something that's to do with Kirklees, but I do think the involvement of local councillors that know their communities should be involved more and have their say.
It's interesting you raise that, Councillor Scott, because we have regular briefings with members of Parliament and councillors on particular topics and on what's happening in regeneration across our region. I have to say attendance is poor. So let's try and take that away to make sure that all of you are aware when those briefings are happening. And particularly your members of Parliament should be able to ensure that you understand what's going on across your community. But I would also challenge your initial synopsis of what's happening in Kirklees, because I am overwhelmed with the opportunities that are in front of Kirklees. You have an investment zone that is £160 million. Huddersfield University, 2 of those huge buildings coming out of the ground. And if you're suggesting that investment in bus stations is not a powerful investment, or investment in regeneration projects such as the market, the library and the art gallery, or investment in businesses to reduce their energy bills, or investment in businesses to understand about export and how they can take on apprentices. And I don't want to take up too much time, Chair, but I was given a list of investments across this region, and if it's of use, I'd be very happy to talk through the list, but it's many hundreds of millions of pounds that is invested, and it isn't just always about shiny buildings or investment in businesses. It is about hope and opportunity, that young people can see a place for themselves in this town, in this region, where they don't have to leave to achieve, that they can be an entrepreneur, they can do an apprenticeship, they can earn enough. And I was just down at the plant training ground for Huddersfield Kirklees College. Those young people becoming apprentices to drive diggers, £45,000 a year for an apprentice. That is a young person being able to maybe save up and buy a house, maybe have a holiday. We are in the hope business, and I am investing in Kirklees to ensure that you have what you deserve, which is an incredibly vibrant region where people will want to stay, invest and raise a family.
Councillor McLaughlin. I'm sorry, Councillor Scott. I was getting carried away watching the clock. Supplementary, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, messmate. Tracy, thank you for your response. My synopsis was not a criticism of what you are doing, but it was welcome to hear where you were saying the investment were in the zones like the university, the market, the library, all South Kirklees and the gallery. What was nice to hear was what you were saying was happening in North Kirklees, and not everybody's on digital. And that brings me to my supplementary to you. Mayor, do you accept that reading minutes after a decision is made is not democratic involvement? And will you commit to clear structured engagement with Kirklees councillors beyond the council leader so that local knowledge for Dewsbury, Batley and North Kirklees is genuinely informs the mayoral priorities before decisions are taken? And I know you've more or less said that you're going to work with councillors, but I think it's really important that not every person or household out there has access to digital, can get online to look at everything. And it's been great, even if you come back and talk about all your projects, fantastic.
Thank you.
Now, Councillor McLaughlin.
Good thing comes to those who wait. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for attending, Tracy. It's great, always great to see and hear from you. And congratulations on your imminent good news.
Yes.
Fantastic. I hope you're as good a grandma as you are a representative for our region. Thank you.
I know, I don't care. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question comes from something that has been mentioned several times at the Talking Transport meetings that we've been holding across the borough, which is the connectivity in terms of bus of rural areas. So it is true to say that while the entire network has suffered at the hands of privatisation and the cuts to the network, connections to local urban centres remain relatively strong, but connections between rural areas and themselves are extremely weak. So will you commit to working with local representatives once franchising has come into force, has settled in and is functioning, to improve that interconnectivity across the valleys as well as down them?
Thank you for that question. You're dead right, and that's why the Bradford Superloop bus was brought in, because people were having to go into Bradford to come back out again, and it's just actually just, you know, two ticks of the clock. It just was crazy. So being able to do that, I think, is where we can bring added value. So for knowledge, when we, the first phase of franchising is 27, it will be totally completed by 28. And we are taking the 2024 network and services and lifting and shifting, and then we'll be able to build on that. But the whole point of franchising is that those profits that were going to shareholders, we will now be able to reinvest. And let's not forget, we are spending many millions paying for routes and services where bus companies have pulled out because they're not profitable enough, but we, the public, are paying for them. We're almost franchising as it is. So I think we'll be able to have that fuller integrated plan. And my vision is tram, train, bus, and also active travel and electric bike under the Weaver network with that integrated ticketing model that you see in London. We have the M card. It's the most sophisticated multimodal card outside of London. We want to build on that.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Tracy, for that answer. I couldn't agree more. I've got my M card here. I thoroughly recommend everybody uses them. It makes everything a lot easier across different modes of transport. But thank you for that commitment. It's great to hear. As I'm sure you're aware, transport is the single largest contributing factor to our greenhouse gas emissions as a region. And improving the numbers of people using public transport and the numbers of areas that are covered by a comprehensive transport network is probably the single greatest thing we can do as a region to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and tackle the climate emergency. Will you commit to never letting down the fight against global warming and protecting the futures of the young people that we are here to represent?
Thank you, absolutely. Can I just use one example, Chair? It's not here, but in Bradford, where there's the clean air zone, and I think it was brought in, it's quite limited, but it was brought in with collaboration with the community. There was a good scrappage scheme. But that clean air zone has reduced the appointments at doctors' surgeries for respiratory issues and problems by nearly 25%. Now, if your child is not having to take their puffer to school, isn't that a win? So absolutely, and that's why Bradford are really leaning into EV buses. We've £8 million from government to build the EV charging programme in Bradford, but I want Kirklees to be fully electrified. That's why in Huddersfield, you're going to see those electric buses on our streets coming out of Huddersfield depot out towards all of our communities.
Thank you. Councillor Safdar.
Thank you, and best of luck for tomorrow for your family.
Thank you for your kind
So
words.
yes, hope it goes well. So talking about EVs and emissions and health issues, I'm sure you're aware, according to the LGA, poor air quality is the largest environmental risk to public health, responsible for estimated 28,000 to 43,000 premature deaths annually. Road transport is the main contributor, accounting for 34% of nitrogen emissions. So, as you've briefly touched upon, electric vehicles are crucial, despite some people having issues about affordability and insurance. I hope you can talk to ministers about that in the future. But the shift to electric vehicles is crucial to bringing down these emissions and giving cleaner air for our children and our children's children. However, we need EVs and public charging spaces to be genuinely affordable. Current pricing actively discourages EV adoption for roughly 40% of UK households without driveways. So my question on behalf of local environmental campaigners, including a bit of a mentor of mine, Mr. Chaz Ball, is that will your team go further to your encouraging work on EVs and look at a really radical coordinated strategy to improve access to EVs for the 40% of households that cannot access home charging?
Thank you so much, Councillor. We are funding on-street charging. But I think your point about cost is well made, because it's also erratic, and different operators, different charging companies. There should be, in my opinion, a flat rate, and it cannot just be middle-class families who can afford to run an electric car. We've got to make it as affordable as possible. I'm aware we're running out of time, Chair, so if you want to just take a few more questions.
Just supplementary, Councillor Safdar. Have you got... Make it quick.
You made an excellent point about working class families. Would you write to the Minister of State about further subsidies for working class families, especially frontline workers and care workers?
That will be part of our submission to government, as we always do, press government on how they can go further and faster when tackling the climate emergency.
Councillor McGrath, can you ask a question in about a minute's flat?
I'll try.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy, and thank you for the address and for all the commitments to fund major projects around Huddersfield, especially. Because I'm not going to get a supplementary, I guess. My question's around the new police station, the shiny new police station, part of the regeneration. So our current Castlegate police station has 30 cells. I believe Dewsbury has a similar amount, probably a little bit less. But the plan is to take all our cells away from from Huddersfield entirely when we're trying to regenerate our town and push hospitality in the market and other places, so there'll be more people in the town, more booze, potentially more crime that comes with it, certainly more cell stays. With the most hard up in society and the most vulnerable being the most likely, unfortunately, in our communities to end up in the cells, I think you could agree if you look at the statistics on that. Is it fair that people in Marsden, let's say, may have to travel 17 miles home, or the people in Home another 17 miles, or in my area of Home Valley North 15 miles? And do you not think that the largest population area in Kirklees, the largest town, which spans the largest area, should not have its own cells, especially considering the growth with extra housing, a more vibrant town centre? Do you not think that more cells, if anything, just to keep those safe from their evenings out in town, rather than take them all the way to Dewsbury and expect them to make their own way home? And is there provisions amongst West Yorkshire Police to use, say, places outside of West Yorkshire's cells? So, for example, if I was in Denby Dale, the nearest cells may be Barnsley. Could you suggest, is there ways that our police forces could work together? Thank you.
I think it's an interesting question. advocating for people who started a fight in the middle of Huddersfield that they want to not go too far to go home at night. But anyway, to take your point that the number of cells across the country, there is an issue about how many cells there are, and I know that the Chief Constable is looking at innovation around increasing the number of cells. I tried to keep it short, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks. We are at time, but Councillor Patterson, you can ask a question.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mayor Brabin. Very quickly, because I think you've actually answered most of what I wanted to ask you. And I have to say that grandparenting isn't the same as parenting, and it's far better. It's lovely. It's great. It is the best. But I did want to just actually talk to you about culture. And I'm not going to ask for funds for Town of Culture, though I would support any town in Kirklees to go for it, because I really do think the idea of the community involvement and business involvement, etc., in towns of culture is really important and great. But I did very quickly just want to say, I know you followed the development of our cultural heart here in Huddersfield. You've visited it and you've been alongside us all the way. I'm really, you've already said this, that culture is not about buildings. It's about what happens inside them. It's the people. It's everything else that goes alongside that. And I've always said also that I want to make sure that the whole of Kirklees benefits from Huddersfield's cultural heart, but also I'd like to see West Yorkshire benefit from our cultural heart. And I was just going to ask, how do you think you might, without giving us any funding necessarily, how can you help?
Thank you so much. And can I say the leadership from the council is spending £1 billion at a time of real difficulty on regeneration from the city and all of our communities being able to access. And if you haven't seen it, the market is going to be amazing with the library and the art gallery. And also that densification of bringing younger people to come and live here, because now that nightlife is going to be really attractive. I want the whole of West Yorkshire to be able to make the most of it. That's why I'm looking at bus franchising, late night buses, why we want the Transpennine to be successful. So wherever you live, you can enjoy my cultural heart. That is an amazing investment, particularly with the hotel and all of that regeneration around the station.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Tracy, for being here this evening. We have now definitely run out of the key discussion time. Thank you. So we will now move back to item 9. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Okay then, so this is item 9, written questions to the leader, cabinet members, chairs of committees and nominated spokespersons. A written schedule of submitted questions and responses to those questions has been circulated. So now I'll ask members to ask any supplementary questions, and I'm sure the appropriate cabinet member will respond. One supplementary question to each submitted question. So question 1 is from Councillor Bolt, who is not here this evening. So we will move to question 2 from Councillor Armour. Councillor Armour, do you have a supplementary?
Right, I thank the Cabinet member for his response and note that I reported the matter to officers once I became aware of the situation. It appears to me that this council has too frequently failed to ensure unimpeded passage along the highway in a proactive manner. I know of 3 egregious examples in my ward, one of which officers have failed to respond to my request for action over a period of several months. And I'm sure that colleagues in this chamber will know of others. What will the Cabinet member be doing to address such shortcomings?
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Am. I hope your arm is on the mend as well. Has that been, you've been wrestling the triffids we talk about in these meetings quite a bit? In terms of how we enforce as a sort of the enforcement that we do as an authority, it's a challenge in that it's the responsibility of the owner, the property owner, to be able to address that. As a council, we do write to them and give them 14 days notice to be able to say, cut it down or we'll come and do it and we'll charge you for the pleasure. There are routes there through which they have the right of appeal through magistrate courts, which some do take the opportunity to do, which does drag the process out. Then got to fit it in with the programme of works that our Green Space Action team does have, which overlaps into many areas. I think we've talked at length in this chamber before about the frequency of fly tipping clearing and how that takes up quite a huge portion of the Green Space Actions team's time. With the investment that is proposed in the budget, which I'm sure we'll get into at the next council meeting, particularly with regards to the Green Space Action team, I'm hopeful that that level of investment into the team will be able to help move us in the right direction in addressing the overgrown vegetation we do see. But I do want to emphasise as well that it is the landowner's responsibility and we should be doing our damnedest to make sure they live up to their responsibilities.
Thank you. Question 3, Councillor Armour, do you have a supplementary? For
yes, please, Madam Mayor. A similar area, I agree. And I again thank the Cabinet member for his response. I note that there is a difference between serving formal notice and actually securing remedial action. What will be done to ensure that there is an effective proactive regime in place to monitor vegetation adjacent to the highway and ensure that obstructions are cleared in good time rather than waiting for issues to be reported, in a similar manner to the way that road surfaces are monitored on an ongoing basis?
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you very much for the question again, Councillor Armour. Similarly, with our teams, when they are out of all areas of the council, we do encourage not just residents but our staff as well to report issues when they do come across any. I do think we do remarkably well given the conditions as a council in addressing such vegetation. I think I outlined in you the sort of cases of where we've formally taken action as a council, but just more generally, in terms of service requests, we've had 1,700 last year and 1,300 of them were addressed as well in that time period over the past 12 months. So I think we do okay and as best we can do under the conditions in responding to them, but there is, of course, more we can do, and as I say, hopeful that when we come to the next meeting, I can talk a bit about that additional investment which will be in the proposed budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Question 4 is Councillor Jo Lawson, but she's not here, so we'll move on to question 5. Councillor Zaman, do you have a supplementary?
I do. Thank you. Given the council says burial land is specialised due to environmental constraints, yet none of the 12 sites considered progressed even to basic groundwater or hydrological testing, how can the council credibly claim environmental unsuitability rather than a failure to carry out the necessary assessments?
Mr. Amanda Pinnock to respond.
Thank you for the supplementary. I don't think that's quite correct. I think the original question actually answers that question about the various things that the local authority do, what the tests that they undergo, and you know the various processes that take place. I think the information is there, but if you want me to investigate that any further, I can do.
Question 6, Councillor Scott, supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question supplementary is to the leader. If the burial provision is said to be purely an operational matter, can the leader explain how the position aligns to her role as leader of the council, which is to provide political leadership and strategic direction? Where is the leadership and where is the strategy when the decisions affecting land use, equality of provision and long-term burial capacity in North Kirklees are being left entirely to officers without elected members being given the opportunity to consider options or set directions?
Councillor Pattison.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott, for the supplementary question. Quite simply, I think the fact that I personally, as leader, have taken this, the burial service as part, or the bereavement service as part of my portfolio as leader, which I don't need to do, shows you that I do recognise the need for leadership in this particular instance. It is an operational matter, but I have been, since I became leader, overseeing everything that's been happening in that service, and I have also attended the bereavement forum and talked to various members of the community, which you've alluded to as secret meetings, that they're not. I've just met with people to find out the real issues within the community about this issue. Just in sense of options, I mean, there are no options. I mean, there isn't shall we have this site A or should we have this site B? So there isn't a decision that either I or the Cabinet could make on this. It is entirely, is this site that we've been looking at, is that suitable? No, it's not. Okay, well, is there another one we can look at, etc., etc. It is entirely operational. We have looked, as we've said many times, to extend what burial facilities we have got in other cemeteries that are available to Muslim burials, and have provided those. We know, whilst we haven't got a duty to actually provide burial plots, we do have a moral responsibility to do so, and have done that to our best of our ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 7, Councillor Scott, supplementary.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Leader, for your response. My supplementary is, given the Council currently has only one Muslim burial plot available in Dewsbury, and bearing in mind there were publicly documented governance and financial issues relating to private burial provision in 2012, can the Leader explain what ongoing oversight the Council has of the private provision that it now relies upon, and what contingency is in place should this provision become unavailable or unaffordable?
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. We do recognise that there is only that one space available, but there is the private cemetery that will provide somewhere between 600 and 700 burial spaces. Elsewhere in North Kirklees, which is council-owned burial sites, we have another 1,400 approximately sites available for Muslim burials. So there is sufficient burial sites across North Kirklees for anyone who wishes to have a particular a Muslim burial. We will continue, as I keep saying, to extend burial plots or to find new land where possible to make sure there is ongoing supply. Using a private cemetery is not unusual. It happens, it certainly happens in South Kirklees, but it happens in many other areas that private cemeteries are perhaps chosen even over public ones. There isn't any particular reason to think that there will be any significant differences between the private cemetery and the public cemetery in Dewsbury or anywhere else for that matter. Thank you.
Question 8, Councillor Scott, supplementary.
Thank you, Mayor. My supplementary is to Councillor Hawkins. And I do realise, Councillor Hawkins, we've had quite a bit of communication this week, so I'll keep this one simple in the supplementary. Given that residents were not offered reduced cost permit options, that there is no minimum enforcement standard and the enforcement may be intermittent and dependent on residents reporting problems, can the Cabinet member confirm whether it is Council's position that paying for a permit does not entitle residents to any defined level of enforcement beyond the ability to report issues?
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Scott, for your question. That is correct. There is no minimum legal requirement of enforcement there, but I do want to outline for transparency, I want to set clear the timeline of changes in the parking permits and the consultation which was undertaken with residents. So following the approval of the 24-25 council budget, which included additional revenue for parking services, residents were consulted between November 23 and February 24 on the proposal of increasing parking permits to £50 and on whether the scheme should be retained, amended or removed. This consultation generated 565 individual objections, 3 petitions totalling 409 signatures, with affordability being the dominant concern. All of that I've just referenced there, all the consultation process took place while Councillor Scott was leader. To quote a Community Alliance Facebook post, that the leader of the council should have an overview of all portfolios, particularly those where there's been such widespread concern, a sentiment which I do agree with, so I'm sure Councillor Scott already knew the answer to all of that. Immediately after being elected by this council, Councillor Patterson paused the proposed...
You can have a personal explanation.
Required was a yes or a no to that question. He's gone.
Councillor Hawkins.
Immediately after being elected by this
reference.
council, Councillor Patterson paused the proposed district-wide changes in a direct response to the affordability concerns raised by residents. This administration revised the
Hang on a minute, Councillor Hawkins, you've been switched off, and it wasn't.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Revised the proposals to an annual charge of £35 with an additional 30% discount for Kirklees passport holders. As before, the parking permit scheme remains an optional service provided by the council. Some residents have petitioned for the removal of the scheme, including in my own ward, where the statutory threshold of 60% support was met, and the council has progressed with the removal through traffic regulation order process, again, which has a further statutory consultation process. I recognise that affordability remains an issue and a concern for some households, and this continues to be considered as part of the Council's wider review of fees, charges set in the context of the overall budget, which we'll be discussing again at the next meeting. On a question that's been raised as well around value for money for residents and what the sort of service they get out of this, most residents across the district do not have parking permit schemes, and those who do understand that the permits neither guarantee a parking space nor 24/7 enforcement. Enforcement is risk-based and supported by residents reporting issues. In your own Dewsbury East ward, there were 273 penalty charge notices issued, 93 of which were to do without valid permits in a parking permit scheme. Parking permit schemes have never been a mandatory imposition. If 60% of residents do not want this scheme, then the council will remove it. We are also continuing to receive petitions from residents who wish to adopt the scheme as well. My personal view is that residents do receive value for money for this optional service, but ultimately it is for each community to decide what works best for them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a supplementary. While the Cabinet member has set out activity and rising expenditure, can she confirm that formal assessment has been undertaken to demonstrate that actions taken to control high-cost placements have delivered improved value for money or reduced cost pressure rather than costs continuing to rise year in and year out? Thank you.
Councillor Kendrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our average weekly costs for external residential placements have reduced. You may not be surprised to hear that the increased costs are because of increased demand. You know, we have 42 young people out of area currently. Previously, it was 17, and that costs, and that has increased. It isn't an option for children's services to ignore or refuse to provide a relevant, safe place for children in need of that. Additionally, in relation to external residential homes, we have a robust contract management, including clear placement agreements and regular reviews with quality assurance processes, including regular visits to providers. We have a firm stance on fee increases and refuse to pay above the RPI, Retail Price Index, and negotiate to avoid quality impacts when we make that refusal. I believe the activity that we have, our approach is sustainable, and we are well below the national and regional average payments for a number of years, and our sufficiency plans have started to impact on the number of children needing external residential placements, and subsequently costs should continue to reduce. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 10. Councillor Down, do you have a supplementary?
Yep. I'd just like to mention that the question I asked was to the Leader of the Council, and it's been referred, I don't know why, to Councillor Dad. So, well, I guess Councillor Dad's going to have to answer. Thank you for the figures. Can the Leader confirm whether any formal assessment has been carried out in the last 12 months on the impact of senior and specialist officer turnover on service delivery projects, timescales and value for money, and if not, why not?
Councillor Dad.
Thank you for the supplementary, Councillor Darwan. I'm just going to be honest, I would need to go back to officers for the figures around the questions that you've asked in the first instance. I'm happy to come back to you in writing with that because I don't have that information on me at the moment. Yeah.
Question 11. Councillor Darwin, do you have a supplementary?
I do, but the thing is, what I'm finding here is my questions don't get answered. Everybody's going to be writing to me. The Cabinet member refers to positive impact from demand management and reablement, yet budget pressures continue to escalate. Can she specify exactly which measurable outcomes have improved in the last 12 months, such as reductions in new long-term care placements or average package costs, and confirm whether these improvements have delivered any cashable savings or whether they have simply slowed the rate of financial overspend? Thank you.
Councillor Dad.
Thank you for your supplementary, Councillor Darwan, and you'll be pleased to know you won't get the answer in writing. I will answer that for you. So yes, I can give you some positive sort of measurable outcomes. So for starters, in our home care hours, we've seen that the average weekly home care hours have reduced from 13.7 in December 24 to 12.8 in December 25 for all client types. For new service users, this has reduced from a weekly average of 10.6 hours in 24-25 to 7.6 hours at the end of December 25. People with over 10 hours of care a week has reduced from nearly 750 in December 24 to 700 in December 25, and people with a double up element of care reduced from 350 in December 24 down to 312 in December 25. I also have some hospital discharge figures for you. We have seen less home care placements from hospital. So on average, 13 per month as it currently stands. It's come down from 25 last year. And we have seen an increase in discharges to usual residents and not a care home placement from temporary beds. So that's gone from 37% in 24-25 to 48% year to date. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of written questions. So we now move to item 11. Motion submitted in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 14 as to the need for SEND profit caps on private providers. Councillor Burke, I believe you're proposing this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to propose this motion regarding the need for SEND profit caps on private providers. This motion is about fairness, responsibility and ensuring that children with special educational needs and disabilities get the support they need, when they need it and close to home. In Kirklees alone, more than 10,000 children are identified as having SEND. For families across our borough, SEND provision is not an abstract policy issue. It shapes everyday life. We all recognise that demand for SEND support has risen sharply. Mainstream schools are working incredibly hard, often under real pressure, and also specialists in some private provisions like Fairfield School, Pivot Academy, Joseph Norton Academy, and they play an important role where needs are more complex. Any ambition from government to improve SEND funding and placements is welcome. But as Munira Wilson MP, the Liberal Democrat spokesperson for Education, Children and Families, has rightly said, children with SEND thrive when they can learn in safe, supportive settings close to home. And ambition must be matched by meaningful reform. That means earlier identification of need, proper support throughout a child's education, and a serious plan to recruit and train the teachers, therapists and specialists the system depends on. Without that, announcements alone will not fix a system that parents know is already stretched to breaking point. As demand has grown, councils have increasingly had little choice but to commission private and independent provision. Many of these providers deliver good work, and this motion is not a criticism of the dedicated staff supporting SEND children every day. But the growing role of private equity has created a system where profit too often comes before provision. We now see companies making margins of 20% or more, sometimes funneling money into complex ownership structures, while councils struggle to balance their books and families battle for appropriate placements. Munira Wilson MP has made it clear that the government must stand up to private equity firms that are draining resources from the SEND system. And I agree, disabled children should never be treated as a business model. At a time when SEND costs are pushing councils towards financial crisis, this level of profiteering is simply unacceptable. Money intended to support children should be going into classrooms, therapies, training and equipment, not extracted for shareholders. This is why Liberal Democrats are calling for an operating cap of 8% on private SEND providers. It is a fair and proportionate step. It allows for providers to operate but ensure public money is used for public good and reinvestment where it belongs, in support for children with SEND. This motion recognises that reform of the SEND system is overdue and necessary, but reform without action and profiteering will continue to fail families and councils alike. By supporting this motion, we ask the Leader of the Council to press the Education Secretary to act with urgency and put children, not profits, at the heart of SEND provision. SEND provision must always be about meeting need, not maximising margins. Vulnerable children deserve nothing less. So I urge you all to support this motion and support the most vulnerable young people in our district. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor John Lawson to second, I believe.
I second the motion and reserve to the right Mayor. Thank you.
Are there any comments on the motion, please? Councillor Jane Ryler.
Thank you. You will be pleased to hear that Kirklees Council are already on the case and working hard to deliver SEND provision within Kirklees. We have 2 new purpose-built special schools in the pipeline, the new Woodley School and College in Albanbury, with modern space for autistic children and young people aged 5 to 19. The number of places will expand from 140 to 180 places. Also, Joseph Norton Academy, the new school, will expand from 63 to 132 places for children and young people aged 4 to 18 that have social, emotional and mental health difficulties. The new school will also provide co-education opportunities. We're also increasing the number of ARPs, the additionally resourced provision, specialist units. These are specialist units within mainstream schools. Children and young people can then have access to teachers and support staff with special SEND expertise. Our latest ARP, which is local to me, is in New Mill, Holmfirth, and will be opening in February. This is an exciting new provision which has only been possible due to collaboration between the council and the staff at the junior school in New Mill. And it will then allow that expertise to be in the mainstream school. So through the opening of these provisions, more children with additional needs will be able to access support and education close to home, and this is in line with parental choices. This also provides cost efficiencies and reduces the need for places outside Kirklees, and as a result of that, then reduced costs. I am happy to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Just a general comment on trying to cap profits from organisations working with councils. I think the only comment that I've got to make is the devil's in the detail, rather than trying to cap profits. It's the detail in which goes into the contracts between the two parties. If I could offer an example, which is the organisation that is housing many of the illegal immigrants in this country at this moment in time, was capped as far as profit, but still become a billionaire over the last 5 years, and has just received another 10-year contract from this present government to house the illegals that are coming in and more over the next 10 years. So even though he had a capped contract, they found a way around that contract, loopholes, lacking in detail as far as the contract. So I would say that the contract is more important than trying to cap a profit margin. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Viv Kendrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I support this motion. I absolutely understand it. I just would like to point out that the government's children's wellbeing and schools bill, which is shortly to arrive, includes provision for a last resort cap on profits for private providers, especially those providing special educational needs and as well children's social care, alongside a new financial oversight scheme. It also intends to provide greater powers to Ofsted for more authority to take enforcement action against those providers. So I think things are already in motion, but I'm happy to support this motion.
Councillor Cooper.
So yeah, more than happy to support this motion, and the theme of it very much is about private provision of public services prioritises profits over people, and so that theme goes throughout it, and I think, you know, there's a lot of work that's gone in SEND, and there's been a lot of attention that's gone in by this council over the way that we're looking at SEND. I commend the work of Alex Vickers, who can't be here at the moment, and the work she's done with families who've got issues with sending Kirklees. And it's welcome to see some of the action that's been taken to get more provision within Kirklees and more places, particularly for people with specialist provision. I was disappointed, I guess, to somehow or other, to Councillor Thompson relate this to immigration. This is about children with special needs. It's about education. That's what it's about. And to actually bring this, like every other subject, that's out there to be about immigration is falling into the trap of the far right. And I wonder, at the end of the day, if that's how that's going to go for you.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do take exception to Councillor Cooper's attacks on members of my group. Well, I'm glad you like it, Andrew, but when it was a fair point made, and you know you distorted what Councillor Thompson was saying. I don't agree with this motion, Madam Mayor, for several reasons. The first thing is I think we've got to acknowledge just how utterly dependent the public sector is on private companies to deliver for them. It's a huge now. Everything would totally fall over if we didn't have private companies delivering public services. And we have to recognise that, because there is a risk that if we try and distort the market in some way by introducing profit caps on private companies, that these companies might just say, okay, then we'll go and do something else and make some money. And when these companies pull out of provision, we're going to be left with an enormous headache. I can agree with a lot of what's been said by other speakers tonight. Councillor Ryler articulated how you actually can change the system so that we can deliver, so perhaps we're less reliant on private companies. That's absolutely fine. But we live in, I'm sure, what a lot of you don't like, which is a capitalist society. And we've lived in it for a long time, for generations, in fact. And we are also reliant on private companies to introduce investment into the system. We have a huge public debt in this country, and councils have huge debt as well. And we can't go on borrowing and borrowing and borrowing on the public purse. And so private companies step in and they introduce investment. And it's not unreasonable then that the people who are actually putting this money in to the system are wanting a return from it. And this is how the system works. So I think by somehow skewing the profit margins of these companies, first of all, it won't work. And secondly, it's entirely the wrong answer to the problem, which is full reform of the system as it stands. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Darwin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say that I support the motion. It's a very kind motion and a thoughtful motion. The way it's written and it was delivered, it was in line with showing kindness and compassion to the children. However, immigration once again has stepped into it. It has got nothing to do with immigration. I'm an expert at immigration. I can tell you this. It's the government that keeps loopholes in immigration. That's where the problem are. Not migrants, not people like myself, although I'm not an immigrant, I'm a brown English woman. Immigration has nothing to do with it. Thank you. Just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm heartened to see the support for this motion throughout the council, other than the obvious quarters that have already spoken against it. I'm very glad to hear Councillor Ryler's update. Thank you for that. There have been concerns about sending this authority in the past. It's good to know that we are improving. We are on a journey, I think it's fair to say, but it's good to know that we're getting there. This motion was, of course, about the national system, so just trying to jump up a little bit above the local. The 5 Liberal Democrat principles that were in play here are putting the children and families first, boosting specialist capacity and improving mainstream provision, supporting local government, early identification and shorter waiting lists, and fair funding. All of those, I'm glad to hear that over the last couple of weeks, the Labour government have actually attempted to address. Apart from, and I know Councillor Kendrick said that the announcement did address the cap. I think just sending this message reinforces that and says we would like to see that 8% cap as a hard and fast rule rather than we look at it in extremis. So I think the support is appreciated, and I think the sentiments around the council are well made and welcome. Thank you.
Are there any further comments on this item? Councillor Graham Turn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just following on from Councillor Hall's comments about living in a capitalist society and people expecting return. This motion says 8%. 8% return, profit margin, is not bad. There's millions of companies out there, millions of operators out there, small businesses, large businesses, would cut the right arm off for 8%. So I don't think it's unreasonable to support this motion. Say 8% is not a bad return on investment. And just addressing the point about contracts for asylum seekers, I think you'll find it was the Conservative government that signed that contract.
Any further comments? No? Okay, Councillor Burke, you have the right to reply.
Thank you to members who've responded positively towards the motion. Councillor Ryler, thank you very much for the response. I appreciate, understand, respect the work that's going into children's services and SEND provision and the work that's taken place now and in the past with officers dedicated to working hard to doing the best they can for the most vulnerable in our communities. And I really appreciate that. I've always done that and appreciate the efforts being done. The operating cap of 8%, where companies at the moment are making up to 20%, I think calling for an operating cap of 8% on SEND providers is a fair and proportionate step. It allows providers to operate but ensures the public money is used for public good and reinvested where it belongs in support for children and those with SEND. So, thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to the vote by consuls, please. In favour? Okay, has everybody voted who wishes to vote? I think that's carried. Thank you. Now move to motion 12. Motion submitted in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 14 as to disabled bus access. Councillor John Lawson to move the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to take too long over this motion. It's been here before. The principals have been here before, and I've asked questions in the minutes of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, because that's, in the end, is where this power lies. And by this power, I mean we're talking about the restrictions between 9:30 and 11 p.m. on bus passes being used by the disabled and elderly. That's what we're talking about here tonight, and is it fair? Do we agree with it, or do we want it to end? They do represent a disproportionately high hurdle for, and I'm talking about the elderly here as well in terms of appointments that they make during their everyday lives, but especially for disabled people, and especially the working disabled. And my own personal contact with this is a piece of casework of somebody who was working at a children's home, work that they loved, had to pay an extra premium to get there for her morning shift. That to me sounds wrong, just morally wrong. We shouldn't be supporting that kind of thing. So what we're asking is that, as 75 members of Parliament did when Tom Gordon brought in the amendment to the government bill, we're asking that we write to West Yorkshire Combined Authority and ask this to be removed at the earliest opportunity. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Andrew Pinnock to second. Thank you. Are there any comments on the motion? I think somebody might have pressed the button and the mic got switched off. Is it right? Okay. All right then. Councillor Bellamy.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to actually support this motion. At the heart of this motion, it's about fairness, dignity and equality. The concessionary travel scheme was created to remove barriers for older and disabled people. Yet disabled residents are still prevented from travelling before 9:30 on weekdays. Now that may sound minor in reality, but it affects journeys to work, college, hospital appointments and caring responsibilities. And these are all essential, not optional. Non-disabled residents can travel at any time of the day. Disabled residents should have some of the same freedoms. Anything less risks enhancing equality rather than removing it. The Council has already committed through the Kirklees Transport Strategy to improving accessibility and inclusive transport. Supporting this motion is entirely consistent with that commitment. The current system also creates a postcode lottery, with some areas offering extended concessions and others not. Equality should not depend on where you live. Removing these restrictions would promote fairness and help unlock employment, education and social participation for disabled residents, benefiting individuals, communities and the local economy. So, as I've said, I'm more than happy to support this motion and I would hope that other members do so also. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Homewood.
Yeah, thank you. So I understand the sentiment of this and I can see where it's coming from. And I can also see that if, you know, depending on what your reasons for having the concession scheme are, if it's about helping people get to work and things like that, then obviously, logically, you know, why would you put that in a way that means that someone couldn't get to the usual start time of a working day? But I do also think that, to me, it's a wider question about bus travel, what is subsidised and what isn't subsidised. I think it was an interesting example at the start of the meeting when we had people say they had a concessionary bus pass, and personally, with possibly to be controversial for a minute, I'm quite sceptical about offering concessionary travel to pension-age people who have far higher incomes often than young people who are trying to get to work. So I think there's a question mark for me about the whole system. I think it could be fairer. Well, yeah, I know. But I'll give you another example. Children have to pay to go on the bus. They might have some reduction in cost. If you're 15 years old, you have absolutely no access to, well, very little access to employment, no access to public funds, yet you have to pay for a bus. So here we're talking about people who may be going to work with a large salary. Should they have to pay? I think basically what I'm saying is I think there's a much wider thing to think about in terms of who do we need, who needs the support, what is the right means of doing that. Obviously with disabilities, well, people have access to other types of funds for mobility payments through PIP and other things. So I would say that I understand the sentiment, but I'm abstaining on this one because I just think that I would wish for it to be looked at in a wider way of thinking, how do we get the best balance and help people, and the most people, and deliver that equality that you were talking about.
Councillor Armour.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to know that I'm rich and so well off. But there you go. I'll be brief, but I do support the motion. I'm not over happy about being described as elderly. Yes, older if you like, but elderly. And it does have an effect. You've got to bear in mind the reason behind many disability concessions is to create a more nearly level playing field. And sometimes disabled people, they don't all drive, for example. And in fact, I'll give you an example of that for myself. Next week on Friday, I have an appointment at Acre Mills to have my eyes seen to, which needs drops putting in, so I can't drive. I had an appointment for 10 o'clock, which means I can't use my bus pass either. Just doesn't just quite feel right, because I'm not rich. There you go. It's a matter of fairness. As actually I said at the extraordinary meeting, a lot of disability concessions, benefits, etc., they are about creating a level playing field for disabled people. They're not about rewarding disability. They're not about paying somebody because they've got a label. They're about fairness. And I actually do believe in fairness. So I will be supporting this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Crook.
Thank you, Chair. So, of course, this administration believes in supporting and protecting the vulnerable, as is identified in our council plan and priorities, and disabled people are clearly amongst those vulnerable groups. I also think that the obvious conclusion to the concerns that have been discussed here tonight around inclusivity, modal shift and reducing the carbon impact of our transport, and in line with our transport strategy, would be to fully subsidise travel, making it very clearly the easy and obvious choice. But clearly this isn't affordable. And when it comes to concessions for bus travel, choices have to be made as to prioritisation and affordability. So I'm absolutely delighted that with the move to public ownership of our buses, a wider range of options will be available to Wicker in this area. Under private operators, each concessionary journey is charged to the funding or subsidising body. But after franchising, we will take the fare box, and so any journey costs us a seat and a potential fare rather than a fare by default. So it's zero cost if the bus is not otherwise full. I would personally like to see a far wider range of concessions, but there is a limited budget, and so, as I said, choices will have to be made and a consistent framework applied to ensure that this is done on an evidential basis. Many will know that I have personally lobbied for free travel to be provided to care-experienced young people, to our collective corporate children. As corporate parents, we should provide this equivalent to the taxi of mum or dad as a given. This group is clearly evidenced as being disadvantaged through their care experience, and so once a framework for future concessions is established, I hope they will benefit. This motion picks out just one group that Wicker will potentially have scope to support, but it also conflates this with other issues within the government's gift. So I absolutely support supporting the vulnerable, including the identified group, but I'll not be able to support this motion, and I'll probably abstain, because it identifies just one group outside of a fair framework, yet to be established, and because it reduces what should be an issue just about supporting the vulnerable in the best way we can to a bit of political point scoring, which I do not think is appropriate or useful. Thank you.
Councillor Andrew Cooper.
Happy to fully support this motion. I think it's an excellent motion and we should definitely back it. I heard what Councillor Crook said about affordability and how he would love to have fully subsidised services. But somehow or other it's not possible in this country. It is possible, however, in Luxembourg, where public transport is completely free. It's possible in Malta, where it's free. It's possible to have free public transport in the capital of Estonia, Tallinn. In certain cities in Slovenia, it's free rail travel on certain lines in Spain. In Perth, in Australia, within the central zone, there is free public transport. So what's possible is decided by what your political priorities are, what you're willing to invest in. And so I think that we're only limited by our imagination and by what it is that we actually prioritise and we want to put forward first. So yes, I want to support free public transport at all times for people who are disabled, but ultimately it ought to be our goal, if we're going to change society and get modal shift working to make public transport the real alternative to the private motor car, to make free public transport for everyone.
Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, in some ways I wish this motion had been expanded slightly, but I, as certain speakers have said, but in reality what this motion is doing is plugging a gap, because disabled people often take longer to get ready and therefore often need to start sooner than other people. and they are unfairly penalised by the scheme not starting until 9:30, and particularly if it's somebody who is on the sort of contract on a job that has working hours that sometimes start very early, sometimes later. So they may be being penalised in that sense, in the same way that able-bodied people would be in the same position. But I look upon this, although it's plugging a gap, and I'm pleased to hear what Councillor Crook said about the franchising that is coming in. This won't be tomorrow, though. Of course, it'll take a bit longer than that. Yeah, all right, the day after, maybe. And I'm pleased to hear what he said about the possible scope of concessionary fares if they still exist in the same form. I repeat what I said. I think this is really about plugging a gap rather than doing what we should do to reform the whole system. Not quite sure I'd go as far as free public transport, but unless it was properly funded, which given this country's record, I'm going to hold my breath. It doesn't seem to be very good at doing things
your
like
papers
that.
on
Sorry.
top of the microphone.
I do apologise, Amanda. I'll put those papers down. That's the best thing to do with it. So, in short, I support this motion, and I urge people, especially if they've thought about this and thought we're just dealing with a small group of people. It's symbolic in that sense. It's symbolic to extend it to people who are unfairly penalised by this system. So I urge you to support the motion. Yeah.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to speak, but I was inspired to stand up and respond to what Councillor Cooper mischaracterised about what Moses Crook had said. It certainly isn't affordable at the moment because under the privatised system that we have inherited, the private operators charge you for every single journey the fare for the concession. That's where the extra costs come from. But as Councillor Crook said, we are moving towards public control, and then public ownership of public transport, and it will be public once again. And once that happens, possibilities become more realistic. At the moment, I'm not that fond of getting first and Arriva's profits even higher, particularly Arriva, they just don't deserve it, basket case. But all those other countries that you listed are, admittedly, miles ahead of us as a nation, but we are moving in that direction. Once we control the box, we're not going to charge ourselves the cost of every concessionary fare, because theoretically all you're doing is giving up a seat. So it's only a hypothetical cost, which makes it more manageable. But we, as an administration and as the people at the moment in the combined authority looking at running the franchise system, would be irresponsible to make a commitment to something we weren't sure is affordable. That's the burden of leadership. Pressure and conversations are happening in private on behalf of various groups. Care leavers is a really good example. Councillor Crook, I know, is particularly passionate about this, but most young people who have stable family lives can rely on the taxi of mum or dad, or the taxi of mum or granddad, grandma and granddad. But care leavers don't necessarily have access to that. And we as corporate parents, do we have a responsibility to be that to them? An argument can be made about old age pensioners needing to get to hospital appointments and doctor's appointments at times that are maybe harder for working age people to get to, which might be earlier or later in the day. There's all sorts that needs to be considered in this. This motion is a very small part of a wider debate that, as Councillor Homewood said, needs to be had in a sensible and circumspect way. So I will be abstaining on this motion because it would be responsible to commit to something we're not sure can be afforded yet, but I assure you, that we care very deeply about getting more people onto public transport, using it as a way to reduce our carbon footprint, and allowing people to access opportunity and life chances, because that is the best contribution we can make to the overall well-being of the population. So I'd just like to clarify that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lawson, right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. Time's cracking on. Not in the existential sense, I mean, just for tonight, you know. So I hear what the Labour benches have said. I understand, and I agree, actually, yes. There are... It is a mixed bag of nuts. There's a lot to consider here. There's a lot of interdependencies. There's a lot of intricacies in the whole bus concession dilemma. I get that, and I especially get the point that you made, Councillor Crooks, about care leavers, and I especially get that subject close to my own heart, as it is to many people in here in the chamber. I think what I'd say is, unlike the famous movie from 2021, we can't be everything everywhere all at once. Sometimes we just have to do what's in front of us. That little bit, that little chunk, we have to do what's in front of us. And I think that's what this motion
Can we just, I know it's nearly 9 o'clock, but can we just, you know...
And that's what this motion is about tonight, is doing that little bit that's in front of us, that's in our power. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, okay. So we will now go to the vote. We'll go to the vote on consults. Thank you. Yeah. Has everybody voted who wishes to vote? That motion is carried then. Thank you very much. As it's nearly 9 o'clock, we won't have enough time for the next motion. We will close the meeting. Thank you.